We're off a bit early, Christopher, as I've said, as it's the Austin Grand Prix. So over to Texas. Hello, Rosanna Tennant.
Thank you very much, Robbie. Yes, welcome to the Circuit of the Americas here in Austin, Texas, where I tell you, the atmosphere is electric. We've just had the national anthem, we've had fireworks, we've had the flag being delivered down onto the track, and there are hundreds of thousands of people here. 400,000 fans will have made it to the circuit over the course of the weekend. They are packing out the grandstands, and they're standing in glorious sunshine, watching the grid take shape for the US Grand Prix. It is 29 degrees here, spicy hot, and everybody is hoping for a cracking race this afternoon. It's a sprint weekend, so we've already seen some racing action with Max Verstappen winning the sprint yesterday, but he's going to line up from P6 on the grid this afternoon. So a little bit of work to do for the three-time world champion, and it's Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari who's starting on pole position. Can he hang on to it? All become clear over the course of the race this afternoon. We are set for a fantastic US Grand Prix, hoping for some wheel-to-wheel action all the way through. And as I'm talking to you, I'm watching the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders performing in front of the crowds. And we've got celebs here on the grid as well. We've got the former heavyweight champion of the world, Anthony Joshua, golfing star Rory McIlroy, and we've got NASA astronauts as well. So it is star-studded, as you would expect, for the US Grand Prix. I'm joined by Jolyon Palmer, former Formula One driver and lead commentator, up in the commentary box, alongside racing driver Alice Powell. And we'll get their take on things very shortly, once we've heard the latest news with Stuart Clarkson. Listen.
Formula One on 5 Live.
Welcome back to the Circuit of the Americas as we gear up for the US Grand Prix. We are minutes away from lights out here in Austin, Texas, and the atmosphere is incredible. You can hear the music blaring out in the background. The fans are on their feet, trying to catch a glimpse of the 20 best drivers in the world as they take their place on the grid. It is a sellout crowd here. Over 400,000 people will have come through the gates, all to see who can take the spoils when it comes to the US Grand Prix. And I'm joined by Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff. You guys are set to cause a bit of trouble today. Where do you rate your chances, Toto?
It's going to be difficult against Max. He's not far away from the front. So I think we need to drive our own race. We have pace and then see where we're ending up.
On a sprint weekend, there are often so many unknowns, but with Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari running that soft tyre yesterday, I guess things have become a little clearer, perhaps.
Yeah, you could see that the soft is not a great tyre.
And I'm no strategist, even I could see that one. How quickly do you expect Max to be on Lewis's tail this afternoon?
Very quickly. He had so much left in the tank on tyre degradation. We shouldn't be kidding ourselves. You know, he's absolutely the favourite. And
in terms of George, how do you rate his chances this afternoon?
Good. He's not far away from the front, so let's see how far he can get us.
And how are you feeling? How's that knee? Holding up strong?
Yeah, I'm limping, but I think I have it easier to walk than you.
Yeah, it's true. Being 6 and a bit months pregnant is a little harder, especially in the heat here.
But you're a really tough cookie.
That I am. Thank you so much, Toto. Have a great race.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, there you go. Team principal from Mercedes with his team starting P3 for Lewis Hamilton and then George Russell a little further back in P5. So, all to play for, and it's a mixed-up grid slightly. So I'm going to bring in former Formula One driver and lead commentator this weekend, Jolyon Palmer. Jolyon, Ferraris have the advantage on the straight lines here and the straights around Circuit of the Americas, but DRS is incredibly powerful here as well, as we've seen over the course of the weekend. So how are you rating Charles Leclerc's chances of making this pole position transform it essentially into a win this afternoon?
Well, he starts from the front, and as you said, the straight line speed of the Ferrari is good, but we just heard from Toto Wolff. Lando Norris starts on the front row today, was asked earlier what his chances were, and everyone is still thinking Max Verstappen is definitely the favourite. He ran away to sprint victory yesterday. He made it look quite easy as well. Starts 6th today, will hopefully give us some good action, starting amongst some drivers that are known to get their elbows out as well. George Russell's had contact with Max already this year. Pierre Gasly in the Alpine starts just behind him, so he's got to be careful, but Max definitely still the favourite in pretty much everyone's eyes here.
Well, I tell you what, Jolyon, I've got a man who can tell us exactly what's going to happen this afternoon. It's team principal of Red Bull, Christian Horner. Jolyon Palmer's thinking there's going to be a bit of action this afternoon as Max carves his way through the field. Is that how you're seeing things?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very competitive race, and I think it's got a sort of cup final feel to it, so I'm sure there's going to be some hard racing today.
Max said, 5 cars in front. It's not going to be straightforward. With a car like yours, surely it should be, shouldn't it?
It's never straightforward. So we'll see. I just seen Anthony Joshua.
Is he giving you... you're going to have a face-off with him?
Sorry?
You're going to have a face-off with...
No, I'm not. That's one person I'm not.
I'll lift you up.
Have a face-off, but he was... yes, I think he was showing where his support is.
Yes, exactly, over at the Alpine camp. And just in terms of the atmosphere here, a lot of people might be turning off Formula One at the moment, given you guys have wrapped everything up. But this is electric, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's a cup final, so, it's going to be a hard race today.
Good luck, thank you so much. Right, I'm going to skedaddle off the F1 grid because they are getting ready for the start, Jolyon. Alongside Jolyon Palmer in the commentary box is racing driver Alice Powell. Goodness me, there's an amazing atmosphere here, Alice. You've raced here. Some serious challenges, though, for the drivers this afternoon, especially tyre management.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of a sprint weekend, that their sprint race is effectively their first sort of go at how to manage the tyres. And Ferrari, we saw they did that split strategy yesterday where Charles was on the mediums and Sainz was on the softs. And Charles even said, didn't he, after the race yesterday, I think we've got some good data to go from having that sort of split strategy. So yeah, this will be a tough race. It's fairly warm out there, not as warm as yesterday. Track temperature is at 40 degrees, but air temperature is just under 30. But it's a long track. There's a lot of different types of corners to deal with. So I think, the drivers are in for a tough afternoon, but certainly won't top Qatar a couple of weeks ago.
No, absolutely. That was hotter than the sun. I tell you what, I'm just going to grab James Vowles very quickly, team principal of Williams. Prospects for this afternoon?
I think this weekend we didn't get everything right on Friday, but yesterday we sort of showed what the car's capable of in the right conditions. It's quite warm out here, you can probably attest to that. So,
do I look like it's warm out here, James?
Not what I was indicating for a second, but it is warm out here and that wind is rotating through different angles. I think that just makes it tricky out here for us today, but prospects are simple. We've got to beat our direct championship rivals, and that's what our goal is going through this, and we can.
Ooh, positive chat there. Thank you very much, James. Have a great race. Yes, talking about wind, whenever we mention wind, it's always in the same breath as Williams, isn't it? Their car's so sensitive here, and as I look up the hill, I can see the flags fluttering slightly, and it's something to be aware of, isn't it? Around this track, it can change a little bit.
The wind definitely is picked up, and it is quite exposed as well. It's a little bit like Silverstone in more ways than just the corners. It's exposed. There's a lot of fast corners that have just long degrees of wind coming through it, and these highly sensitive Formula One cars, they are a little bit exposed to a gust, as we've seen. It can cause many a mistake. So that's something that drivers are all going to have to watch out for, particularly in the early phase of the race when they're laden with fuel as well.
I tell you what, something quite funny that happened on the install laps. Lance Stroll, who will be starting from the pit lane this afternoon, as well as his teammate Fernando Alonso, he headed to the grid just on autopilot, so he had to be pushed back by his mechanic. So a few things to unravel this weekend, I think, Aston Martin. But yes, the two Astons and the two Haas cars starting from the pit lane this afternoon. I have headed back into the pit lane, a lot shadier here, I have to say, because it is hot out on the starting grid, and the cars and drivers are in place. The grid is being cleared. I think we are getting ready for that formation lap. Jolyon Palmer, are you ready for the US Grand Prix 2023?
I am ready.
Right.
There's a real buzz about the place. 400,000 fans in today, and I'm really looking forward to this. Verstappen starting in 6th, Leclerc from pole, hasn't won a race in a year and a half. Lando Norris from 2nd, has never won a race, and even Lewis Hamilton from 3rd hasn't won a race in nearly 2 years. So it's going to be a fantastic opening to the Grand Prix, I think.
It certainly is, and the crowd here have just been loving it. And as I mentioned to Christian Horner, there's a risk, isn't there, when the championship titles have been decided, that people decide not to come, but it is not the case here. US absolutely embracing Formula One.
Yeah, they certainly are, and I think that's helped with that drive to survive. I've actually met a lot of fans throughout the year, a couple here this weekend certainly, that have said, yeah, we're here because we started watching Drive to Survive. So I think that's really helped push it here in America. And actually a couple of people that I've spoken to that are involved in IndyCar said actually that maybe IndyCar can learn a little bit from Formula One in terms of that sort of programming that they do. So it'll be interesting to see if IndyCar start to have their own drive to survive-esque thing to try and draw more fans in.
I think they tried it, but not that much interest, not like here at the Circuit of the Americas. Jolyon Palmer, former Formula 1 driver and now lead commentator on the BBC. I'm going to hand it over to you, my friend. Enjoy the race.
Here we go then. The tyre blankets are removed, the grid clears, and as we approach 2 o'clock in the US, in Austin, it is time for the US Grand Prix. So, your grid for this afternoon then, it's Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari on pole position. Lando Norris, never won a Grand Prix, starts alongside him and has a chance to snatch an early lead. Lewis Hamilton third, Carlos Sainz in fourth, George Russell fifth, and then the champion, Max Verstappen, crowned last time out, will start sixth. Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon, the two Alpines, seventh and eighth. Sergio Perez, still bidding for second in the championship, starts ninth, ahead of Oscar Piastri. Behind him, Yuki Tsunoda, Zhou, Bottas, Ricciardo, Albon and Sargent, rounding out 16 drivers who will take the grid. There are 4 drivers starting from the pit lane. Both Haas cars changed their rear wing element. That's not allowed. They have to start from the pits. And Aston Martin are having a torrid weekend. Fernando Alonso has had to go back to the old spec of car, and they're doing a back-to-back sort of test run for Aston Martin, both starting from the pits. It's the fewest cars we've had on a Formula 1 grid for 18 years. 16. And that goes all the way back to 2005, where we were also in the US. But Alice, it's such a different atmosphere this time around.
Yeah, it is. It's electric out there. It's hot. The crowd, they just bring that energy, don't they? You know, every time a car goes past, they're up on their feet, they're screaming, they're shouting. So the atmosphere is electric. It's buzzing, and it's nice that we have got a different mix, as you touched on, Jolyon, here at the front of the grid.
That was the voice of Alice Powell alongside me, Jolyon Palmer, Rosanna Tennant in the pits. They're already halfway through this formation lap. Leclerc's gone round fairly quickly on the medium tyres, as everyone on the grid is, Rosanna.
Absolutely. Medium tyres and hard tyres, surely the order of the day. We got a little bit of learning yesterday when Carlos Sainz ran that soft tyre, but the teams are telling me that they're only going to use that if they have to do a 2-stop potentially, or if there's a safety car towards the end of the race. So watch out for that.
Chance of a 2-stop race. Everyone getting a little bit excited about the prospect of a 1-stopper after they managed to extend tyre life, even on the soft, with Carlos Sainz yesterday over 19 laps. The medium tyres that they're on, maybe a little bit harder for the opening corner.
Yeah, well, we did talk on the podcast yesterday, didn't we, that maybe we'll see Charles opt to go for the soft tyre to get that launch off the line. His teammate did it yesterday in the sprint race and really got a great launch. So he's opted to not do that and stick with the medium tyre. But, you know, that stems, I guess, from qualifying where we saw that soft tyre really start to drop off. But Lando Norris is coming up to the grid now, right on the back of Charles Leclerc. Usually you leave a little bit of a gap, don't you? But he's followed him right on to the grid. I think Lando's feeling he could probably win this race. He's feeling, I know he said, oh yeah, well, Max is going to come through, but you know, there's always that chance. He's got no one in front of him, and he had better pace than Charles yesterday.
The British driver is right up for this, starting from second. The cars rumble their way past the commentary box that we look out of the final corner. The final car will be Logan Sargent in the Williams, the American driver on home soil, needing to prove something. But it's all eyes now to the front of the field. Charles Leclerc on pole in the Ferrari, Lando Norris alongside him, Hamilton in third, who's got great form here, and Verstappen, the champion, starts sixth. The red lights illuminate now, and the US Grand Prix is underway, and it looks to be a good start from Lando Norris, who's already coming alongside the inside of Charles Leclerc. Hamilton's got away well as well, as has Carlos Sainz. 4 cars together into the first corner, but it is Lando Norris who takes the lead. Leclerc will hang on to second, and it's Sainz into third. Side by side between Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Hamilton sticks to 4th position, Verstappen 5th, and Piastri's already up to 6th place as they filter now through turns 3, 4 and 5, and as he did at Silverstone, Lando Norris has taken an early lead in the McLaren.
He's had a great start. Piastri had a little bit of contact there. I think that was with Esteban Ocon. So we'll have a look if there's any damage there. Max got a good start, but he's now under pressure from Oscar.
George Russell, the driver that lost out there, 5th on the grid in the other Mercedes. He's down to 8th. Hamilton lost a place. He's down to 4th behind Sainz, who made a good start. And there's a lunge down the inside there from Esteban Ocon, trying to still fight with Russell as the two Ferraris do battle on the back straight. Leclerc second, the pole sitter, lost out on the initial getaway on the start. Norris was straight up the inside, and now he's got his teammate Sainz having a look down the inside. The two Ferraris right together at turn 12. We're halfway around the first lap, and there is nothing to separate the Ferraris. Sainz with a nose down the inside. Leclerc chopping across and maintaining the position, and Lewis Hamilton still sniffing around the back as Sainz defends the middle of the road at turn 15. More drivers jockeying for position further back. Russell 8th, with Perez still 9th in the other Red Bull right behind him. Pierre Gasly dropping down to 10th on the opening lap. So the order is this as they come through: Norris, Leclerc, Sainz, Hamilton, Verstappen, Piastri, Ocon, Russell, Perez, Gasly the top 10. Then it's Zhou, Tsunoda, Ricciardo, Albon, Bottas, Magnussen, Sargent, Alonso, Hulkenberg and Stroll.
Yeah, Oscar was all over the back of Max Verstappen. He's opened a little bit of a gap now as Max, but I wonder if that's because Hamilton really forced Max Verstappen wide at turn 1 and forced him right on the dirt. Really showed him the shoulder. So I wonder if Verstappen got his tyres a little bit dirty and Oscar thought, this is my chance. But now the gap's opened up and Verstappen, I wouldn't be surprised by the end of this lap, he will be right on the back of Lewis Hamilton.
The old rivals went side by side on the opening lap, and Hamilton managed to keep Verstappen at bay. So we're on lap 2, and Max has taken 1 of the 5 places he will need to claim Grand Prix victory today. It's Russell that lost out in the Mercedes. He's down in 8th, still fighting with Sergio Perez, still right in behind Esteban Ocon in the Alpine as well as they come down towards turn 11. There's a long straight following this corner. It's a tight left-hander. Ocon defends slightly the inside, turns in early. That'll give Russell a chance on the exit, and now they accelerate down towards turn 12. Really long straight, approaching 200 miles per hour. Ocon covers the inside line. Russell will have to go around the outside in the Mercedes if he wants to make this pass. He's good on the brakes, but Ocon holds on. Car squirming under the brakes though, and Russell might have a chance into turn 13. It's a right-hander, but once again, Ocon has the inside line, and they're dueling it out. Perez watching, Gasly watching behind as well. Ocon still struggling for grip, still covering the inside at turn 15. This is the sound on board the Red Bull of Sergio Perez, and Ocon has been told already he's got side pod damage.
That'll be from the contact with Piastri or Max. I can't remember which one it was, but it was a very close contact at the start of the race. George Russell is now noted for leaving the track and gaining an advantage at turn 1. So he, remember, got a 5-second penalty for overtaking off track. So he will have hopefully learned not to do that again, but it seems like he's gained an advantage already at turn 1.
The stewards were more lenient at turn 1 last time around in the race yesterday. This time Russell, as you said, got pinged for overtaking around the outside of turn 15 on Oscar Piastri yesterday. It was a talking point amongst the drivers who thought he should have had more than a 5-second penalty. As it was 5 seconds, and he managed to sneak a point in the sprint. Right now, he's back in 8th place where he finished yesterday, and he's still tucked in behind Esteban Ocon. Ocon with side pod damage, really, really struggling. Out front, Norris in the McLaren, 2.5 seconds clear now of Leclerc. He is bolting out front. Leclerc with a second back to his teammate, and Lewis Hamilton keeping both Ferraris company. Russell looks to the inside at turn 11. Ocon's given him the space, and Russell takes the place. Russell up into 7th place, but Ocon will tuck in for the slipstream down towards 12.
Yeah, very clever move because he's now benefited from the DRS. It was very late on the brakes, but that speed of the Alpine and the Red Bull, Perez is going in between both of them.
Here comes Perez, sandwiched between Russell and Ocon, but he's cleared the Frenchman. Ocon now shuffled down to 9th position. Started in 8th, had a good getaway, but now he's dropping down, and he has a little bit of side pod damage. His teammate is the next car behind, and Ocon defends aggressively into turn 15. It's going to slow Gasly up here as they come through the quadruple right-hander. 2 French drivers in the French team running right together, coming up towards the penultimate corner, and Ocon is struggling a lot, really struggling to turn that car. That damage must be holding him back at this stage. No love lost between these two as well. Into the final corner, here's Gasly. Hamilton looking at the back of Sainz. Sainz now under pressure from the Mercedes. Hamilton started 3rd, Sainz started 4th. They swapped places at the first corner, and at the first corner on lap 4, Hamilton is trying to take the place back, but Sainz holds on for now. through the fast corners. Difficult to pass, but Hamilton's keeping it tighter through 6. 7 and 8, left and right. Now they're coming through the tricky turn 9, which has caught many drivers out this weekend. Bumpy on the exit. It's an important exit because it'll lead them towards turn 11. This is where Russell put the move on Esteban Ocon on the last time around. Ocon's lost 2 further places on this lap, so Gasly's through, Tsunoda's through, and he is tumbling out of the top 10 now. But what about Lewis Hamilton? In 4th position, Sainz in 3rd, and Hamilton opens the DRS. This is the sound of the Mercedes. Down towards turn 12, Sainz doesn't cover the inside, and it's a nice gimme pass, surely, for Hamilton as he hits the brakes, turns it in, understeers slightly at the apex, but the move should be done. Sainz fighting back on the outside of turn 13, but nothing doing there. And Hamilton recovers from his lost ground at turn 1. He's back into 3rd place.
Yeah, that was an easy move. And actually, Max Verstappen has sort of dropped off the back of Hamilton. I did say that I was expecting him to really charge down because he was really couching Lewis, but didn't. But here's a replay of the start, Julian.
It was a great getaway from Lando Norris. It was a long hold with the 5 red lights as well, but Norris immediately got the jump. Leclerc didn't get a great start from pole position, and Hamilton chopped right across, so they were 3 wide behind Norris into the first corner. Sainz managed to keep it tight and take the place from Hamilton and make it 2 Ferraris in the top 3. Hamilton and Verstappen were right together running wide. Verstappen forced slightly wide, but I'm sure that won't be looked at too carefully from the stewards. They were all running together, jostling for a little bit of space. But the big move was Lando Norris taking the lead, and he's now 2.6 seconds clear of Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, he got a really good launch, didn't he? And that, even though it's quite a short run and you're side by side with the person next to you, you have to make sure that every shift is spot on and you nail your braking points, as the sound you're about to hear is on board with Max Verstappen, who got a fairly decent launch as well. He had a look at the right-hand side, decided to take the outside and brave, and then Lewis Hamilton appears on the left-hand side, and he was never going to let him sneak in there, was he?
There was no space for Verstappen, but he still took the place of George Russell. Russell got away really, really badly from his 5th place grid spot. Verstappen now making the move on Sainz. This is for 4th position. There's a cheer from the crowd. Verstappen with a lot of support here in the US, and he's made the move up into 4th place, down the inside at turn 12 on the brakes. It's a nice move from Verstappen, but Sainz right now got up to 3rd at the start, but he's just dropping down and doesn't look like he's got the pace.
No, it really doesn't. He is really, really struggling, especially in that middle sector compared to those around him. For example, compared to Max, he was nearly 1 second, it was 8/10 slower than Verstappen in that middle sector. So clearly struggling there. And George Russell, there is no penalty needed for him. The stewards feel that the incident at turn 1 at the start was all within the rules as such.
Lap 6. Lando Norris leads 3.1 seconds clear of Charles Leclerc, who's coming under pressure now from Lewis Hamilton. The Mercedes has got good race pace and Hamilton is showing it. Verstappen is 4th, Sainz is 5th, Piastri 6th, Russell 7th, Perez 8th, Gasly now 9th, and Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri is in 10th position. Then is Zhou, Ricciardo, Albon, Bottas, Magnussen, Sargent, Alonso, Hulkenberg, Stroll, and Esteban Ocon had that decent start with damage, now right at the back of the field, Rosanna.
Absolutely, his race engineer telling him that that's worth 40 points of load, the side pod damage, and I'm sure, Jonan, you'll be able to tell us exactly what that feels like in the cockpit of a Formula 1 car. But watching on, of course, in the Alpine garages, Anthony Joshua, the boxing champion, Rory McIlroy as well, the golfing star, so they're going to hope that Esteban can hang on with that damage. We've also got royalty here in the sense of Prince Harry. He's watching on in the Mercedes garage, and Lando Norris out front being told on the radio of the gaps behind him as we see a move there by Lewis Hamilton. Talk us through it, Julian.
He's made it already round the outside of Charles Leclerc. Nice move from Hamilton, had the DRS down the back straight, and he clears Leclerc for 2nd place. He is looking up for this fight as well in the Mercedes. Leclerc tried to cover the middle of the road, went towards the inside, and Hamilton just stuck to his guns round the outside and was good on the brakes there, Rosanna.
Yeah, and it seems like the Ferraris are already having to manage their tyres, both struggling to hang on at the moment. What does that mean? Are we going to see some pit stops much earlier than we were predicting?
Possibly. I mean, they won't want to. They want to stay on schedule, but because they've not had a great deal of running in free practice, because we've only had 1 free practice session, that's really been the only time, and the sprint race yesterday, to gather this data. But Ferrari certainly look like they're struggling. But I tell you what, Lewis Hamilton looks fast, doesn't he, Jody?
He looks fast. He is fast. 6/10 quicker than Norris on that last lap with the help of DRS on the back straight. Didn't have to actually lose a lot of time fighting with Leclerc because Leclerc gave him the racing line to make the move around the outside at turn 12. The gap between the two Brits out front is 3.2 seconds, and Hamilton is on a bit of a charge. This is the sound of Esteban Ocon on the opening lap, and it was a clout with Oscar Piastri.
Yeah, it was. Oscar was on the outside there. I just don't think he saw him. It'd go down as a racing incident, but that means, unfortunately, for Esteban Ocon, that is it for his USA Grand Prix. His visor is down, he's pulled in the pit lane, the car is jacked up, and he'll be wheeled back into the garage.
Rory McIlroy here this weekend, Anthony Joshua. They've just invested in this team, the Alpine team, and one of their drivers is the first retirement of the race. That was Esteban Ocon switching his Alpine off. He is out. 19 drivers remain, and they're one car now. Pierre Gasly running in 9th place, just behind Sergio Perez, who's still 8th. Qualified in 9th. He's benefited from Ocon retiring, and he's still sitting there in 8th behind Russell, who lost places at the start. Sainz is still running right with Verstappen. So the order at the front is Norris, Hamilton still 3.2 seconds back. Then it's Leclerc, who's just dropped away from Hamilton's DRS now, just over a second between those two. There's just over a second between Leclerc and Verstappen as well. And that was the sound of Verstappen being tailed by Carlos Sainz. So Sainz is staying right with Max.
Yeah, he is. He looked like before that he was just going to drop straight off, wasn't he, at the back of him, because he seems to, maybe he was just nursing those tyres or waiting for them to really switch on. But just looking at the timing screen, Jolyon, Hamilton's eking down that gap. It's still at 3.1 seconds, so he's gained a 10th or so on that last lap. Hamilton, I feel, though, would probably be pretty frustrated with his start because he has lost really valuable time sitting behind Sainz.
That was the voice of Alice Powell. Down in the pit lane is Rosanna Tennant, and alongside us is the keen eye of BBC's chief F1 writer Andrew Benson, as Fernando Alonso makes a move, started from the pit lane and takes the place of Logan Sargent, the home driver in the Williams, struggling for form this weekend. Alonso taking the place in the old Aston Martin car, the undeveloped Aston Martin car that he's reverted to. Andrew, thoughts so far?
Well, I think Max Verstappen's just biding his time, letting the race play out in front of him, confident in his pace as the race develops. I was speaking to some engineers before the race. The Red Bull's tyre degradation is so much better than everybody else's that it could have a second a lap advantage after 20 or so laps on top of the pace advantage it already has. That's a second from tyre degradation alone. The Ferraris, their secret weapon in theory was their speed through turn 11. They've been the fastest car through that's the hairpin onto the long back straight all weekend. But they just can't hold on their tyres. Charles Leclerc yesterday was saying they might learn from the tyre degradation they suffered badly from in the sprint, but it seems like it's, if anything, it's even worse today than it was yesterday. So I would say they're falling out of contention, and we're not quite clear where Norris and Hamilton lie on relative pace. Hamilton's first lap in clear air was much quicker than Norris's, but then Norris speeded up a little bit, and now they're only lapping about a tenth apart.
Is going off a lot.
That was the voice of Sergio Perez in 8th place, dobbing in George Russell ahead for exceeding track limits. Hasn't been a major issue, track limits, since the FIA widened the white line at the penultimate corner. The white line that was exceeded by Max Verstappen in qualifying, which is the reason he started from 6th today rather than on pole. He was the fastest driver on Friday by just 5,000ths of a second in a super tight session, but Verstappen exceeded those track limits. The FIA then widened the white line. It was not a problem since then, but there are quite a lot of lap times being deleted, Alice.
Yeah, and a lot of them are actually at turn 19. We've had Ocon, obviously he's not in the race anymore, Hülkenberg, Magnussen at 11, Hamilton at 19. So they just keep flickering up on our timing screen now. We're only on lap 9, so there's still a long way left to go. But just want to go back to what you said, Benny, about Max Verstappen and the tyres. But surely if they're going to be sitting behind in hot, turbulent air, that's not going to do the tyres any good.
That's definitely right. It will harm the tyre wear, as you say. It'll make it worse for Max Verstappen, which is why I think he's biding his time and being so careful. He's trying to make sure he doesn't suffer as much as possible from that dirty loss of downforce situation that you're talking about, because I think he feels he's confident that he's got the pace to catch the others over what's quite a long race. There's still 40 odd laps to go, so let's see how it develops. But he's just steadily closing on the back of Charles Leclerc as we come to the end of lap 9. It's looking to me like he'll probably get the Ferrari on this next lap.
This is the sound of the Dutchman in the Red Bull. 4th place for Verstappen, with his eyes set firmly on the back of the red Ferrari in front. They flash past our commentary box and head on to lap 10 of 56. Verstappen tucked in, he's later on the brakes, he's way wide at the apex on this lap as well, so it's not all tidy from Verstappen, even if he's managing those tyres at the moment. I was surprised how Leclerc, who dropped away very quickly in the sprint yesterday, surprised how upbeat he was actually, thinking that from pole position he had a chance in this one, given the degradation. So far, he is the man that's dropping away from those top two. The top two still separated by 3 seconds. So Norris has responded to the early pace of Hamilton. Norris ahead of Hamilton, separated by 3 seconds. Then it's 2.5 seconds back to Leclerc. So Leclerc's not dropping back too quickly at this stage either. And Verstappen's having to wait behind him. Sainz behind Verstappen. That's your top 5. Then it's 3.5 seconds back to Piastri, who has George Russell for company. Russell is right with Piastri and will have a chance on this lap. And I think he's gone for the move at turn 11 already. Russell is through, and he may well get the DRS on the exit as well. So Russell on the charge. Perez now fighting with Piastri as well on the straight down towards turn 12. As our first pitter has come in, it's Zhou in the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, and actually, I'm not sure if Piastri's got a problem because he's now lost a place. Yeah, he's slowing down the back straight.
Problem for the McLaren then. Oscar Piastri, here's his radio.
Oscar, recharge on and no full pedal. We need big lifts. I'm afraid we've got to retire the car.
What a shame for Piastri. He was having a good drive in 6th. He was just falling into the clutches quite quickly of Russell. Russell came through, but now he slows, he hobbles. And the winner of the sprint last time out in Qatar, almost the star of the show last time in Qatar, the Australian rookie, will be the second retirement of this Grand Prix. And McLaren left with one car, and he's leading the race. Norris still 3 seconds clear of Lewis Hamilton. This is the sound of Fernando Alonso, tucked in, still on a charge behind Kevin Magnussen. Looks a little bit more comfortable today in the older spec Aston Martin. Magnussen peels off to the pits, and there's a load of drivers pitting on this lap. It's lap 11, and in comes Albon, in comes Bottas, in comes Magnussen. We're starting to get the first sign of a two-stopper today.
I was going to say exactly that, Jolie, and this means a two-stop certainly for these cars. I don't know about the front runners yet, but this is far too early to make it on a one-stop.
Degradation out front, not too bad. Norris 4/10 away from his best lap on the last lap. Still 3 seconds between Norris and Hamilton, and looked like overall some pretty tidy pit stops down there, Rosanna.
Yeah, absolutely. 3.5 seconds, 3.1. People getting the job done in a pretty steady, solid fashion. But Oscar Piastri, what a difficult weekend for him. Of course, he had a little bit of a collision yesterday with Carlos Sainz in the sprint. Then again, colliding with Esteban Ocon, who's already retired from the race, and just watching him being pushed back into the garage. We've got more moves out on track, Joe.
It's Verstappen v Leclerc. This one's been brewing for a while. They're side by side still into turn 13. Verstappen was trying to make the move at 12, was forced wide. The Ferrari and the Red Bull still fighting up towards 15. Verstappen has taken the place. Leclerc tried to keep a nose in at turn 13. He was forced wide at the previous corner. They're still right together now through the quadruple right-hander up towards turn 19 at the end of the lap. And if Leclerc can stay close, there will be DRS to try and fight back through. But it is finally Verstappen making the move up into the top 3. He's 4.2 seconds away from Lewis Hamilton now. And that was a move born out of a few corners.
Yeah, he wasn't giving it up, was he, Charles Leclerc? He really tried to get him back round the outside. He's within DRS, but he's too far away. He just lost out round the triple right-hander of 16, 17, 18. A little bit of aero wash, but Max crept up on the back using the DRS. Sandy, here is the replay on board with Max Verstappen. He thought to have a look on the right, but no. The best option was go to the left, and it was quite a late one, wasn't it, Jolyon?
It was a brave move from Verstappen, actually. Had to do it on the brakes, was coming from a fair way back, ran deep, had a little hint of a lock-up on the front left. Leclerc went wide at 12, kept his foot in at 13. They went through that as brakes for impact as Leclerc kept the nose in at 13. But there's more cheers from the Red Bull fans here as Verstappen completed the pass in the end. That's a sign, I think, of Ferrari's straight-line speed here. That was not an easy pass, and considering Leclerc was dropping back, he was actually 7/10 slower than the top two on that last lap. That was not an easy one for Verstappen. He's made it through, but Leclerc is right with him on lap 12. He's not giving this one up.
No, and Sainz was struggling, wasn't he, until Max got past him, and he latched on the back and really used the DRS. So I wonder whether Charles will do the same thing. He'll just try and keep Verstappen there and use the benefit of the DRS down the main straight into turn 1 and down that really long back straight between 11 and 12.
Again, I don't know how many times he already went off. You're got 5 seconds.
They're going back. They are losing lap times for him.
That's Sergio Perez on the radio. Perez in 7th position, still adamant that Russell's going off track limits. He's had another lap time deleted, and it looks like the FIA are having to be right hot on this because the lap times are actually being deleted fairly quickly now.
Meanwhile, at the front, Jolien, Lewis Hamilton's beginning to up the pressure on Lando Norris. The last 2 laps, he's closed by a 10th a lap each time, and he's just set the fastest lap of the race. So, rather like Max Verstappen, I think Lewis Hamilton's been biding his time, learned from the sprint race yesterday when he went hard trying to chase Verstappen and it didn't work out for him. Been careful with his tyres, and now he's applying the pressure on McLaren in front of him as the first pit stop window approaches for the leaders.
They haven't bitten on the pit stops from further back. That was the voice of Andrew Benson alongside me, Jolien Palmer, Alice Powell and Rosanna Tennant for us down in the pits. This is coverage of the US Grand Prix from the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. We're on to lap 14 and Logan Sargent is going to make a move on Kevin Magnussen. This is for right down in 17th place, but it's really, really close between the two. Sargent going to the inside, but he's just found out not so easy to pass Magnussen.
No, not at all. They came very close coming together, but he'll have another go. It's hard to follow, though, isn't it, through this left-right section. It's almost inspired by Maggotts Beckett's of Silverstone, of course, but he's right there. He's going to get the DRS detection, which is between turn 10 and 11, so he will get another attack, I expect, going down into turn 12, because he will have the benefit of DRS.
Here we go then, in towards turn 11. Magnussen struggling. This is a fight between drivers and teams right down the bottom order. It's still closing up towards the front. Norris leading by 2.5 seconds. It's now 2.1 seconds as Hamilton takes another chunk away. Sargent round the outside of Magnussen, and this one should be a little bit easier. It looked like he had the move done at turn 1, but Magnussen never gives up in wheel-to-wheel battle, but this time he doesn't have a choice. Sargent through into 17th position, but it's starting to hot up. We're getting towards pit stop window, and Hamilton is finding the pace.
Yeah, we're just flashing up on our screens now is turn 12 incident involving Verstappen and Leclerc has been noted. So we said it was a late move down the inside. I can imagine that Leclerc has been on the radio and kind of said, well, hang on, he sort of dive bombed me and forced me off track, because they were kind of wheel to wheel, weren't they, going around 12?
Interesting. They were very, very close. It was quite a late move from Verstappen, and he didn't claim the position immediately at the apex, but they were wheel-to-wheel all the way through to turn 13 as well. We'll see what the stewards make of that one. There's now 1.5 seconds between Verstappen and Leclerc, so Verstappen's not marching up to the top 2 just yet. Norris leads 2 seconds clear of Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton still just eking into that gap from the McLaren out front. And Rosanna, the other McLaren out of this Grand Prix.
Yeah, bittersweet day for McLaren. They've been going so well, haven't they, over the last couple of months. It's that upgrade they brought in Austria. So they have Lando Norris out front, Oscar Piastri in the garage, now heading to talk to the world's media, and they're telling us it's a water leak that they're going to investigate after the race. Disappointing weekend for Oscar Piastri, and of course 2 more races to go, and to try and find that momentum on a triple header, it's going to be tough for Oscar now, especially as a rookie.
So, Jolien, on that Verstappen-Leclerc move, it didn't look too bad from the TV screens, but it's not been an issue with Verstappen for the last year and a half. He's dominated so much. But if you cast your mind back to 2021, the rest of the field were very concerned about the way he used to drive, basically throwing his car into corners and forcing other people to get out of his way and going right to the exit on the white line, and they thought that wasn't fair racing, and they made a point of it in a number of drivers' briefings. And Hamilton particularly got annoyed about it through 2021 when they were fighting for the title. I wouldn't say that was a particularly egregious example of it, but it was the same kind of idea as what the drivers used to get upset about 2 years ago. And Leclerc's got a long memory. His history with Verstappen goes back 15 years or so since they were kids in karting. So I think you're absolutely right, Alice. I think he's been on the radio making exactly that point.
Verstappen came across so hard on Leclerc at the start of the sprint yesterday, right over to the pit lane exit, and the rest of the cars, there was a photo that they would look like they were in a different state. They were so far off to the left-hand side, Verstappen defending from Leclerc. But Charles said after the race, it was fine. It was hard racing. It's just how I like it. And personally for me, I thought that Verstappen move was quite nice. I like seeing moves that are done on the brakes. I don't like seeing DRS gimmies. I thought it was good. But if there was no space left on the exit, that'll be what Leclerc might have a complaint about.
Yeah, that's exactly, took the words straight out of my mouth. If there was no space left out there and we didn't have that wide open track, then there could have been an incident, but there could be some action coming on at the front of the field now. That gap between Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton is coming down and down and down. It's 2 seconds now, 1.9 seconds as they go across the line. But just coming up on our screens, they've had a look at it, have the stewards, and they feel that no further action is needed between Verstappen and Leclerc.
Hard racing. The stewards have called it, and I think you could certainly see that argument. Verstappen made the move through, had to do it on the brakes, and the Red Bull has had huge straight line speed so far this year, needed to use the brakes to make the move, and he made it through into third place. Here's Norris.
I don't know what's going on. It's in 8, it's in 9, but we're struggling well with the balance. Okay, we're on it.
That's the team radio of the race leader. Crowd still cheering. We've got a fight on at the front. Norris comes through, Hamilton comes through, and Alice, there's less than 2 seconds between them.
Yeah, there is. Just having a look at the wind speed, it has actually dropped ever so slightly. The direction's not really changed, so I was just wondering whether that would have played an effect, but clearly he's not too happy, is he, Lando Norris, at the moment?
Difficult section of track that, in the high-speed corners, quick changes of direction. Formula One cars so precise, need a really good aero platform, and Norris is feeling a little bit uncomfortable now, feeling the heat of the Mercedes in second place. Sainz said yesterday the bumps on this circuit are making a difference for him. He's missing confidence for that, is Norris?
Lando, try and avoid the curb through there. The wind is inconsistent, which might be what you're feeling.
They're listening in to you.
Oh, right. Change the radio channel. No. Well, it does look like it keeps changing ever so slightly, but as you said, these cars are really, really sensitive to the wind, and actually over 8 and 9, there's a big bump. You go over the crest, and it's fairly bumpy, but Red Bull now, Jolien, they're out in the pit lane.
Who's this going to be? Verstappen. It's Max Verstappen. Norris comes through past our commentary box. Hamilton does. Here's Verstappen into the pits, Rosanna.
Absolutely. The Red Bull mechanics ready to receive him. He screeches to a halt, makes his mark, and it's a fairly quick stop there for Max Verstappen. 2.5 seconds standing still, and he's back out into the pit lane. How powerful could the undercut be this afternoon?
Well, he was 4.5 seconds down on Hamilton. Andrew Benson, that's not a driver that's been looking after his tyres too carefully in the first stint, is it?
No, but then maybe, let's see how the strategy plays out. Has he put medium tyres on there?
He's back onto a set of mediums. He emerges in 9th position.
It's interesting because everybody else who's coming to the pit so far has put hards on. So I would imagine that's a 2-stop for him, but I think watch out for Max Verstappen now. This is where he's going to try and make the ground that's going to get him, that he hopes is going to get him ahead of Norris and Hamilton ahead.
So Norris still leads. We're on lap 17 of 56. Norris leads Hamilton from Leclerc, Sainz, Russell, Perez, Gasly, Tsunoda, then Verstappen, who's just pitted, and Daniel Ricciardo returning for this Grand Prix, having sat out the last few with a broken bone in his hand. Alonso now 11th, Stroll 12th, Hulkenberg, Zhou, Albon, Bottas, Sargent and Magnussen, the 18 drivers still running. Piastri out, Ocon out of this Grand Prix. And Norris and Hamilton both exceeding track limits on the last lap, both at turn 19. They're pushing really hard. There's 1.8 seconds between them. Do they now have to pit and cover off? They come through the penultimate corner. Norris, then Hamilton. And Norris is going to come in. He peels off to the left-hand side. Hamilton stays out, but Lando Norris pits, Rosanna.
Yeah, box on the radio for Lando Norris, and in he comes from the lead, rocketing into the pit lane, heading down. And Sainz also being called into the pit lane as well in the Ferrari, so he's pitting from P4. Lando Norris heading into the McLaren box there. Mechanics ready to receive, car up on the jacks. Is it going to be a quick one? Of course, they set a seriously fast one in Qatar. 2.8, a second slower than they managed in Qatar. Ferrari also ready to get Carlos Sainz serviced, and out he goes as well. A 2.5 second pit stop for them, and Perez also in the pits. It's super busy down here. 2.8 standing stop time for Sergio Perez. He's been vocal on the radio. Hopefully he can get these tyres working so he can make up those positions without having to dob in other drivers. And we've also got Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri coming into the pit lane as well. Let's see how he goes. A 2.8 stop for the AlphaTauri team.
Sainz fighting on pit exit with his compatriot Fernando Alonso. They're almost side by side into turn 3. You don't do that. There's a really tight high-speed section of track, but Sainz emerges ahead of Alonso, who hasn't pitted and started from the pit lane today. So a 2.8 second stop for McLaren. 1.8 second was a new world record for them in Qatar. Lost a second, but it's still good. A 2.8 second stop, and he's ahead of Verstappen.
Hamilton has been instructed target +4, could be on a 1-stop.
And there you go. That's the decision then. Norris and McLaren sitting in the lead just a moment ago. They've given that up. Hamilton now leads from Leclerc and Russell. Those three haven't pitted. But if you're Norris, do you twist and cover off Verstappen? Do you stick and cover off Hamilton? Who's the main threat here?
I would say you have to go with Verstappen, don't you, as the main threat. He's lighting up the timing screen at the moment. He's setting personal best, so we'll have a look by the end of this lap. But if you do a pit stop, if Hamilton wants to do just a one stop, the average is about 20 seconds that you lose doing a stop. And at the moment, the gap between Hamilton and Verstappen sits at around about 22 seconds.
And on the tyres, you've got Norris now on the hard tyre, Verstappen on the medium. So the Red Bull's already a quicker car on a quicker tyre now. The hard will last longer, but the teams before the race were worried about its general pace. So I think Norris might be in a bit of trouble here.
Verstappen does the fastest lap of the race. Here's Hamilton.
Lewis, do you think you've got another 5 laps on this tyre? Do you reckon you could handle it?
No, I'm not sure, man. It's pretty tough.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, he at the moment is lapping around about 2 seconds slower than Max Verstappen. So surely, I would say, on that pace, they've got to come in.
Mercedes rolling the dice right now. They've barely got a pit stop window to Verstappen, though, because they didn't cover him off straight away. Hamilton leading and doesn't know if he'll be able to make a one-stopper work. Oh, they're right on the cusp of it right now. Verstappen with the fastest lap, 140.9. Hamilton on the last lap at 142.7. That is tyre freshness for you.
They're going to have to roll the dice here, Mercedes, because they've already lost the ability to pit and come out ahead of Verstappen. They've lost that on-track position. The only way they can hope to fight with Verstappen now is to do some kind of tyre offset.
George, can you let us know, do you think there's another 5 laps left in this tyre?
Yep.
Happy days for George Russell.
He sounds quite chilled, doesn't he, about that?
You're a little bit more chilled when you're in third and not fighting for a win than you are when you're fighting for a win, though, I'd argue. Hamilton hasn't won a Grand Prix for nearly 2 years, feeling the heat and the pressure of leading a race right now, something he is very, very comfortable at doing, and his record speaks for itself, but he's had a big, big mistake on this latest lap, lap 20 of 56. It's a huge front left lockup for Lewis Hamilton at turn 11. He didn't turn the car at all, went right round the outside of the corner, and that might have done those medium tyres a bit of damage.
Yeah, it hasn't. They've not boxed him, so he lost a second on his previous lap because of that lockup. So I think they've missed the boat now, really, haven't they? If they do box him, he is going to come out behind Verstappen. So we'll keep an eye on the pace. Looking at Lando Norris, he's about half a second slower at the moment, but of course he is on the hard tyre.
Hamilton leads, Leclerc, Russell, Norris and Verstappen who have pitted, as has Carlos Sainz. That's the sound of the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso leaving the pit. He was on an early charge but never quite got up to the top 10 before the pit stops. He'll rejoin right towards the back of the field in the Aston Martin. The screech of the tyres of Nico Hülkenberg is the last driver on that lap to make a pit stop. He falls down to 18th and last. It's a tough Grand Prix so far for Haas, who are 17th and 18th with Magnussen and Hülkenberg on their home race with upgrades that also aren't working. There's going to be a lot of designers scratching their heads. Here's Hamilton.
So Verstappen now inside our pit window.
No, man. I'm struggling out here.
That's what you were saying, Andrew. They're stuck now. Didn't opt to cover off Verstappen. They had a chance to on that first lap, but they wanted to do something different to Norris. So Mercedes running in second with Red Bull of Verstappen just behind. Lando Norris just ahead. Hamilton was catching Norris in the early stages, but now he comes into the pit, slows it down through the left-hander, and Rosanna, this is the race leader in.
Absolutely. From Lewis Hamilton coming into the pit lane, he has been struggling. We've seen that lock-up. That will not have helped things, so he's going to be happy to get rid of those tyres. Let's see what he's put onto. It's a set of hards for Lewis Hamilton, exiting the pits now. So hopefully he can do something with those. A 3.6 stop time, though, for Lewis. One of the slowest stops we've seen this race.
Yeah, it's not going right for Mercedes after that good pace in the first stint. The tyres suddenly falling away very quickly, and he has been jumped quite comfortably by Verstappen then. 5 seconds between the two as Hamilton emerges from the pits on a set of hard tyres. So they've gone for the Norris approach. Mediums onto hards. Verstappen's mediums onto mediums. He's finding a bit more pace as a result. He's half a second quicker once again than Norris on the last lap. Pierre Gasly making a move. Gasly now back into the top 10, making a pass on Nico Hülkenberg before Hülkenberg pitted. This is the sound of Charles Leclerc making a move also. Carlos Carlos Sainz actually coming past Daniel Ricciardo, who also hasn't pitted. Norris now has made a pit stop. He's in third. Russell is ahead, but he's not going to be ahead for much longer. Norris with the DRS blasts around the Mercedes, and the two drivers starting their 100th Grand Prix today swap positions. Russell struggling also, having not pitted. Leclerc leads the Grand Prix. He hasn't pitted either. Russell hasn't, from now third position. Norris clearing him very, very easily. There's now a couple of seconds back from Russell to Verstappen, but Russell will pit at the end of this lap. The other driver in the field not to pit yet is Daniel Ricciardo, returning. He's in 8th position.
So Carlos Sainz has now popped up with the fastest lap of the race, so that came out of nowhere, didn't it? So in their pace for this first part of the race as George Russell peels into the pits.
Yeah, copy. We are just offsetting.
That's the team radio for Lewis Hamilton. His teammates in the pits, Rosanna.
Tricky one for Mercedes to manage when you've got one driver struggling with the tyres and the other saying they were okay. That other driver, George Russell, now in, up on the jacks, 4 wheels off, 4 wheels on, and he's on his way again. So let's see how George Russell fares now. Already complaining, Lewis Hamilton is, of being too far back. It was a 2.8 stop for George Russell, so slightly quicker than his teammates, and he's heading back out to rejoin the fray.
Russell then enters turn 1 on the cooler hard tyres. He'll have to work to get them up to temperature because Gasly is right behind him in the only remaining Alpine in this Grand Prix. Gasly tucked in behind Russell as they approach turns 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Really high speed, swerving right and left, high-speed chicane. That'll build the temperature for Russell, and he should establish himself back in 8th position. So Leclerc leads. He hasn't pitted. Maybe we were a bit quick in writing off the tyre degradation on the Ferrari.
Indeed. Now, on the situation between, we're just watching a replay of the reason for Hamilton's slow pit stop was a problem with the front right. Hamilton's lost 10 seconds overall to Verstappen in that pit stop period. Now, either Mercedes have completely messed it up, or they weren't really racing Verstappen. You know, have we just seen a team just facing reality, knowing that Verstappen's too quick, and just focusing on the battle with Norris and not with Verstappen?
Well, it's not great compared to Norris either, is it? As Gasly and Russell do battle through turn 12. Gasly actually trying to make the move on Russell. Russell out of the pits on his hard tyres, and Gasly fired up, trying to go around the outside and was shown the door, forced off the road on the exit. Still fighting it out through turn 15. Now coming through the long right-hander up towards the end of the lap again. Russell lost out to Sergio Perez in that stint as well. So both Mercedes losing out. And if Hamilton lost 10 seconds to Verstappen, he lost nearly that to Norris, if that's his closest rival. And he only gained about 3 laps of tyre life. So doesn't look like a great move for Mercedes right now. There's a long way to go in this one. We're on lap 23 of 56. The order is this. Leclerc out front now. Norris within 2 seconds of him, bearing down, having made a pit stop. Leclerc hasn't pitted. He's still on the medium tyres he started on 23 laps ago. Then it's Verstappen in third. Hamilton 7 seconds behind the champion. Hamilton in 4th position. Sainz is just 3 seconds back from him. Then it's Perez, Russell, Gasly, Tsunoda, Zhou, Albon in 11th place. Alonso's pitted and is right on the tail of the Williams as well in 12th. Then it's Bottas, Sargent, Ricciardo, Stroll, Magnussen and Hülkenberg. Ricciardo pitting on that last lap falls down to 15th, but on much fresher tyres now. Alonso passed Albon, as I was saying that as well. So Fernando Alonso having a much better day so far, up into 11th. Everyone now has pitted in this race, apart from the race leader Charles Leclerc. This is definitely a one-stopper for Ferrari. They've made it work. And Mercedes didn't really.
So far, here's Norris's radio.
Our race is with Verstappen. He's gone medium, so has to stop again. We think plan B. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
There we go. Game on.
That's the choice then that Mercedes have made and Norris makes. He's right on the tail of Leclerc, but Leclerc peels in, so Norris will reclaim the lead of the US Grand Prix as he comes through to start lap 24 of 56. Leclerc into the pits, the race leader. Definitely on a one-stop as well. Ferrari now trying to make a quick pit stop. There's not been too many record pit stops today, but it's 3 seconds for Charles Leclerc. That's acceptable in this Grand Prix. Right on the average of pit stops. He's going to come out. He's going to lose ground here, Leclerc. Also trying to go for that long first stint. Through goes Hamilton. Through goes Sainz. Through goes Perez. The driver that was running in the top 3 early on was on pole position, but lost the lead at the start. Emerges in 6th position. So now the order settled. The top 10 is Norris, Verstappen, 2.5 seconds back. Then it's Hamilton, Sainz, Perez, Leclerc, Russell, Gasly, Tsunoda up in 9th, and Alonso in 10th.
So we're looking here at a situation where Verstappen's on a 2-stop, Norris is aiming for a 1-stop. We don't know about Hamilton, but he's probably aiming for a 1-stop too, given that Norris is, and Hamilton has 3 laps fresher tyres on his car. And just to put that 3-lap offset into context, the degradation here at the Circuit of the Americas is about 1/10 of a second a lap. So that's 3/10 of lap time advantage Hamilton has bought himself for whatever length of time this stint is. So let's see how that plays out between the two of them.
First black and white flag for track limits is issued. It's for Kevin Magnussen in the Haas, running around in 17th position, but we're not yet at half distance. Could be a sign that there could be some penalties incoming for other drivers. We heard Sergio Perez on the radio just tallying them up for George Russell in the first stint. Russell now has been passed by Perez, so at least he's got that relief of not having someone check on every line that he does. Perez now in 5th, the teammate of Max Verstappen. Verstappen in 2nd. Norris, Verstappen, Hamilton, Sainz, Perez the order. Different strategies certainly in play now in this Grand Prix. As was reported to Norris, Verstappen must pit again, and he's going to have to do some overtaking in this one once again. Started in 6th, took 5th position from Russell off the line, made his way through into the top 3, made an early pit stop and a decision that locked him into a 2-stopper.
He's not only going to have to do some overtaking, he's going to have to speed up. You know, he's going to lose 21 seconds with his pit stop. He's 2.3 seconds behind at the moment. He needs to start showing that pace if he's going to win.
Yeah, he does, and he's actually circulating slower at the moment than Lando Norris.
We are with the same strategy as Russell behind, with a hard.
So that's the radio call to Leclerc. Big lock-up for Norris on that last lap into turn 11. That was the same corner as Hamilton, the race leader. Now loses a heap of time, was 2 seconds clear of Verstappen. Now Verstappen just a little over a second behind Norris, and he's going to lose time all the way down the back straight, down towards turn 12. Norris on the hard tyres. They were saying they want to take these to the end. They can't afford mistakes like that, but that was quite a big lock-up at the difficult turn 11.
Yeah, it was. It's a little bit bumpy going into there. We just late on just tried to wind the lock-in and just had a little bit too much brake pressure and snatched that inside left tyre. So as you said, Jolien, that has visibly, you can see, we certainly can, from the gap has closed right down, 1.2 seconds it is now. Norris just needs to rack off these consistent laps and can't let those mistakes creep in. He actually lost 8/10 compared to his previous best middle sector, so a huge heap of time.
Yeah, he had just done a personal best lap of the race. This time round he loses 1.5 seconds, so huge loss, and Verstappen is on his tail. Albon is the latest driver to pass Show. There's more action behind him further down. Stroll fighting it out with Daniel Ricciardo, who was one of the late pitters. Albon now in the Williams, just missed out on a point in the sprint yesterday. Defends, covers the inside of turn 15 from Zhou, the Chinese driver in the Alfa Romeo. That's Albon up to 11th. Alonso now has got the Aston Martin up into the top 10. But out front, Norris leading Verstappen, just 1 second in it. That lock-up, not as big as Hamilton's. He managed to release the brakes and probably save the tyres, but he's under pressure.
So we can use these tyres. Norris pushing more in.
I mean, I expected that answer back from Hamilton. Of course, he's trying. That was a gentle hurry along, wasn't it, from Bono? But interesting now, Max is within the DRS and it is wide open going down the back straight.
Norris will have to defend and cost Verstappen lap time now. Lap 26 of 56. We're getting towards half distance. Verstappen, slight bit of oversteer now in the dirty air of the McLaren as he comes into turn 12. That's the best overtaking place on the circuit. 20 corners around here, 5.5 kilometre track. It's a driver's favourite. Full of fast corners, but there's also a couple of DRS zones and some overtaking opportunities. We ride on board with the race leading McLaren, also struggling for a bit of rear grip. Alice struggling coming out of turn 15, bit of oversteer.
Yeah, he is. He just needs to now try not to get too distracted from the mirrors of Max Verstappen. Very easy for us to sit here and say that. We know how difficult it is when you're in the lead and someone is hunting you down, let alone Max Verstappen, as Max has the DRS wide open going down the main straight. As they slam on the brakes, the gap has come down just to 0.6 of a second now.
Norris was asked earlier on, has he got the pace to win? And he said, no, Max has, quite simply. Now he's got to almost half distance, he's still winning. There may be on the better strategy with the way this could play out. He can get to the end, and if he can't, he can at least pit for a medium tyre again instead of going for the slower, more difficult hard tyre, which he's on right now. It's allowed Verstappen to get within 1 second. And if these two start fighting, we might yet get Lewis Hamilton, who's on a fresher tyre, start to close up.
Hamilton was 0.6 quicker than Norris on that last lap, and a second on the lap before when Norris made his mistake at the hairpin. I was just waiting to see how it played out when they were properly racing together without the error. 0.6 on one lap for Hamilton.
Verstappen 7/10 behind Norris. This is the sound of the McLaren, the race leader, coming down towards turn 12. The Red Bull hunting him down, closing, looking to the inside, but it's just a tentative look for Verstappen on this lap. Really, really close behind Norris on the exit, but he's too far back. Here's Hamilton.
Give me a hell of a gap, close. Yeah, copy, Lewis. Let's just see what we can do.
He's on one of those days, isn't he, Lewis?
He is, yeah. He's, I think most of the messages we're going to be getting back from Lewis are going to sound like that. But since that lock-up from Norris, he's lost over a second of pace. He was lapping around about in the 140.9s, 141s. But since then, he's now 142.1 with his previous lap. So he is suddenly, all of a sudden, struggling. But he's hoping that he just needs to get his exits, doesn't he, Jolien? Out of 11 and out of 20. And he's got a fairly decent one out of 20 now.
The problem he's got is that the McLaren's worst corner on the track is turn 11, and that's the one before the back straight. So he's going to really struggle to hold Verstappen back for long, I think.
And that's where he made his mistake. That had that lock-up, cost him a second and a half. That bears on your mind a little bit when it's the crucial corner, and you've got a Red Bull, the champion, the man that's only been beaten in a Grand Prix 3 times this year, on your tail. Verstappen started in 6th place, took an early pit stop from 3rd, having made places in the opening stint. Hasn't shown huge pace through the Grand Prix, not the pace that we saw yesterday in the sprint, but he is now on the tail of Lando Norris. We're on lap 28 of a 56 Grand Prix, but right on half distance. Just heard from Andrew Benson, Alice Powell, with me, Jolien Palmer, in the commentary box. We've got Rosanna Tennant down in the pits. It's a dynamic, intriguing race. It's a great race at this stage. And Verstappen opens the DRS down towards the big chance. The overtaking place down at turn 12. He's closing on Norris, and he looks to the inside. Sends one. Verstappen laid on the brakes. He makes it through. He's clean. Norris now fighting back side by side into turn 13, but Verstappen's made the move, and there is no coming back from it here. Norris now trying to fight back at 15. Verstappen is cleanly ahead, and he covers the inside into the left-hander. Low speed corner. You've got to get the traction, and Verstappen has. Still just ahead of Norris. Then nose to tail through the quadruple right-hander now that will lead them back through to turn 19. But Verstappen's made it through. He's clear now as they come through the penultimate corner into the Andretti, the final corner of the 20 around this circuit. Here's Norris.
I don't know if he went off or not. Hard to see from my side.
I think he was in. I was looking and I think he was in, but Norris has got the benefit of the DRS down the main straight. He's not quite close enough to have a look, so hopefully we will be able to see a replay very shortly. But again, it was a nice move from Max. It was kind of like fairly late again.
Looked like he caught Lando unawares. Lando Norris leading the Grand Prix on the last lap. Verstappen closing in. He had the DRS, but he had to make it work once again on the brakes. And he was a good few car lengths back. Dived to the inside. Norris had the door wide open for him, and Verstappen was definitely within track limits on the exit. There's no complaint there as the Dutchman takes the race lead. Had to cover it off. It's a nice sequence of corners at this Circuit of America's track. Turn 12, the move was done, the tight left-hander, but then you can fight back into 13 as a right-hander, but because Norris had lost that inside line, there's not a lot he can do. So Oscar Piastri watches on. He retired on lap 10, the rookie, and he's just seen his teammate lose the lead of the race, but Norris stays within a second, Rosanna.
There were big cheers in the Red Bull hospitality area in the F1 paddock. I tell you, Jolien, you might think because the titles are wrapped up, nothing really matters anymore for them, but they are right there with Max Verstappen at the moment. The hospitality suite totally packed out. Big cheers and a round of applause as he made that move stick.
Verstappen leads 9/10 clear of Norris, who has stayed within DRS, and that'll help him just try and keep away from Lewis Hamilton, who is closing in all the while. 1.6 seconds quicker than Norris on the last lap, with Norris ceding position to the now race leader Max Verstappen. Hamilton 5 seconds back from Norris, so it's Verstappen, Norris, Hamilton. Sainz then 4.8 seconds back from Hamilton, watching on as the top three start to disappear from him. He's got Perez just behind. Leclerc pitted very late and lost a load of track position as well. He's in 6th position, going to the end on a set of hard tyres. Then it's Russell, Gasly, Tsunoda and Alonso rounding out the top 10. Fernando Alonso starting from the pit lane today on the old spec Aston Martin, having had a horrible weekend trying to run the new one with updates. They changed the car, meant he had to start from the pit lane. Didn't cost him a huge amount because he got knocked out in Q1 yesterday already. And he's now up into 10th place ahead of Albon, Stroll, Sargent, Ricciardo, Hulkenberg and Magnussen, the two Haas cars, having a torrid weekend as well. Then it's Bottas and Zhou rounding out the 18 runners as Albon comes into the pits. And we're getting second stops already. Lap 30 of 56. These guys will go to the end. That's Albon pitting from 11th position. We've already had Zhou pit. That's why he's now right at the tail of the field. There's a decent scrap going on out of the points, but there's quite a big gap from those in the points to those just outside. Alonso in 10th, now has Stroll behind. There's 10 seconds between the two Aston Martins.
What lap do I need to go to?
Extend for now, extend, that's the best bet.
What lap is extend, Ricky? Be clear.
Switch Sierra plus 2.
So that's Carlos Sainz on the radio in 4th position. Did a good job keeping the soft tyres going for 19 laps yesterday. He was the only driver on that tyre. We thought it would fall away, but he managed to keep it going and score 3 points for 6th place. He's still running in 4th, but a little bit agitated there. Wants to know how hard he can push.
Yeah, he was. Didn't seem particularly happy. He wanted his answer quickly and felt it wasn't quick enough. But interestingly, Hamilton now is really closing down that gap, that previous lap. Well, I said the previous lap. Lando Norris has just suddenly found a little bit of pace from somewhere. He was lapping in the middle of the 142s, and he's now gained a second on that lap. So the gap's actually stretched open again now between Hamilton and Norris.
And Norris is still within 6/10 of Verstappen. The fight for the race lead is still on. Verstappen on the mediums has to pit again. Norris on the hards might have to pit again, but has the option of going to the end. Hamilton is catching the two of them. 4.7 seconds now between Hamilton and Norris, and he pitted the last of those three. Here's Norris.
Track limits, Verstappen, second last corner.
Okay. Here we go. That time of day again where we start domming each other in. But
were you a driver that did that?
A couple of times, yeah. Were you?
I guess you take what you can. I don't want to think that I am a bit of a telltale, but that's what we're down to now. It's complaining to the umpire that the drivers are doing. And Norris, he's got a good view because he's right tucked in behind Verstappen. 7/10 between them. This is the sound of the top two, heading in towards turn 13, the right-hander. The Red Bull ahead of the papaya McLaren. Verstappen with a Austin special livery on the Red Bull. The stars and stripes on the underside of the monocoque. And he's still leading Norris, but Norris staying within DRS, and this is actually helping his race now with 25 laps to go. Verstappen must pit again. He's going to lose 20 seconds for a pit stop, and if Norris can stay within this range, stay right on him, then he's just being helped along, and it'll mean that Verstappen cannot extend any part of that 20-second advantage in this part of the race. So 1.1 seconds between them as they cross the line this time. There's no DRS for Norris, and just behind, the looming Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton, quicker than Norris by a couple of tenths on the last lap. The gap between second and third comes down to 4.5 seconds.
Yeah, so it's interesting, isn't it? Lando must have just been looking after his tyres, but then you would want to do that in the clean air, wouldn't you? But the pace that he's suddenly gained these last couple of laps has certainly improved. It's made a big difference, Andrew.
Well, bear in mind that the DRS, if you have it, is worth 6/10 over one lap, which is why Norris would be so keen to stay within that range of Verstappen for as long as he could. He's now lost the DRS, so let's see how it plays out between Norris and Hamilton over the next few laps.
And we saw that yesterday. Hamilton was able to stay within DRS range of Verstappen as soon as he was over a second back after about 6 or 7 laps. He fell all the way to 9 seconds back in the next 10 laps. So that's what may have been helping Norris, but the McLaren's had good pace so far. We're yet to see the Red Bull unleash max speed that we saw yesterday. He disappeared in a 19-lap sprint. But Verstappen is in the lead of the race, but he's not in a different league to anyone.
It's almost as if Red Bull think that Mercedes and McLaren can't make the one-stop work, because at the moment, he's going to pit and lose 20 to 21 seconds, as you say, and that's fresh tyres on a Red Bull. He's going to come at them at a rate of knots, but if he doesn't build a significant gap, it's going to be quite a hard work to close that gap, even for him.
Charles Leclerc is 20 seconds off the race leader as they come past our commentary box, starting lap 33 of 56. We've got to be getting close to second pit stop territory for Verstappen soon, you would have thought, and that would put him right down with the Ferrari of Leclerc, currently running in 6th position, the pole sitter. lost the lead at the start, fell back in the early phase, and is definitely going for a one-stop. He was the last of the main runners to pit. The order is this: Verstappen, Norris now 1.7 seconds back. He did lose 7/10 on the last lap, so it looks like now Verstappen is stretching his legs. Hamilton still reeling in Norris. Hamilton in third position. Then it's Sainz, Perez, Leclerc. Russell in seventh, having a lonely race. Gasly in eighth, likewise. Then it's Tsunoda and Alonso now catching the Japanese driver. And then Stroll, Hulkenberg, Sargent, Ricciardo, Albon, Bottas, Zhou and Magnussen, the rest of the runners.
Max Verstappen having a big lock-up going in to 11, so he's pushing. He really is pushing. He has stretched out the gap. It's 2 seconds now between Lando Norris. Hamilton's got the gap down now, though. 3.8 seconds to Norris in second place. So Max is pushing. We've seen a few people have a little bit of a lock-up there. Hamilton's come over the radio and said the wind's got a bit strong all of a sudden. It's changed direction ever so slightly, so they've got they did have a slight headwind going into 11, but now they've almost got a little bit of a crosswind there, and the speed's gone up.
It's a lock-up, but it's not cost him any time. Unlike the Hamilton lock-up and unlike the Norris lock-up, it's a hat-trick of lock-ups for the top three at turn 11. It's a difficult corner, and it's a crucial corner because it propels you then all the way down the longest straight on the circuit, down towards turn 12. But as Verstappen crosses the line again, the gap is growing very, very quickly. 1.3 seconds he was quicker than Norris on the last lap. The gap now 3 seconds, and the fight is becoming second and third. Norris v Hamilton at this stage.
Yeah, the gap's coming down and down and down. Lewis Hamilton 8/10 quicker than Lando Norris on that last lap, so it's coming down.
Sorry, it's actually 1.2 seconds he was quicker on that lap, Hamilton. He's really coming at Norris now, and here's Verstappen's...
Oh, man, his brakes are so compared to yesterday. What a piece of...
Understood.
Oh, he is feeling the heat still. He's just done a quick lap time, but he's struggling with the brakes. Brakes are really not working very well today, is the message from Max Verstappen to his race engineer, Giampiero Lambesi. He's still pulling away from Norris, but the top three can see each other as they stretch their legs, build up towards 200 miles per hour on the back straight. And it doesn't look easy for Verstappen today. He's in the lead. We know he's got to pit again. And, he's feeling hot under the collar.
I'm going to throw something out there. Is this the best race of the season?
I'm enjoying it.
I'm enjoying it because at the moment we don't know who's going to win, do we? And Singapore is probably the last time, but I feel like this is a little bit more open than Singapore.
Well, Singapore was very dull for 2/3, and it was an amazing finish. It was an iconic finish. Here's Hamilton.
Max is thrown away. It's more like Norris is coming to you.
It actually is. That's the message back to Lewis Hamilton from Pete Boddington. Verstappen is pulling away from Norris, but he's only 1/10 quicker than Hamilton. So the top three separated by 6 seconds, and Norris is pitting. So Norris, off the hard tyres, is coming into the pits, Rosanna.
First one to pull the trigger, and it is Lando Norris in the McLaren coming down the pit lane into the McLaren box. Going to get rid of those hard tyres. Let's see what he puts on. It is another set of hards, I think, from what I can see. You might be able to tell me differently. Let's have a look at how quick that stop was. It was a 2-second stop. Wow, the McLaren pit crew are on fire this year. Of course, 1.8 set back in Qatar a couple of weekends ago. 2 seconds for Lando Norris, and it is a set of hard tyres that he's on as he rounds turn 1.
Interesting decision then. Norris biting first on this round of second pit stops. That will surely now call Verstappen in on the next lap. There was 3.5 seconds between the two. That was a brilliant stop from McLaren, who have found their mojo in the garage this season. 2 seconds today, 1.8 last time out. Really, really strong pit stops. And now Norris will have to hammer it on this outlap. Verstappen out there on an old medium tyre. It's 20 seconds for a pit stop. It would take something from Lando Norris to force an undercut of Verstappen. But let's see what happens. Verstappen leading now 6.2 seconds clear of Hamilton. Sainz still 5 seconds back from Hamilton, lapping at a similar pace. He's got Sergio Perez for company. Perez within 1.5 seconds of the Ferrari in the battle for third and fourth. Leclerc running long, running steady in fifth. He's definitely on a one-stopper. But what about the battle at the front? Verstappen now coming towards the end of the lap. Coming through, 16, 17, 18, long-loaded, fast right-hander. Sweeps through the left-hander of 19, and yes, he does. He comes into the pits, moves to the left-hand side. Tight left-hander that will greet him. And Verstappen slides up to the pit lane speed limiter, and he comes in for a pit stop.
Max Verstappen in, and we've got a lovely view here in the F1 paddock of Max Verstappen, slightly slower it seemed, the Red Bull crew taking their time to get him serviced, and he's back out, and in comes the Ferrari then as well of Carlos Sainz. He's into the pit, the red overalls, hard at work, the mechanics getting him on the road very quickly. It was a 2.2 stop for Sainz, but a 3.3 stop for Verstappen. It was a little slower.
I have to say, it looked even slower than that, but Verstappen will emerge just ahead of Lando Norris still. Norris has not done enough on the outlap, but the hard tyres take a bit of warming up. Verstappen now sweeps through turn 2, flat out, in towards the far sequence of corners. Maggots and Beckett's S from Silverstone. 3, 4, 5, 6, right, left, and now coming towards the end of the first sector, but there's 1.7 seconds between them. McLaren and Norris have not done enough at this phase. Verstappen's covered him off.
So what do Mercedes do now? Because Hamilton's pace wasn't too bad, was it, compared to Max Verstappen? So do they stay out now? They're just going to have a look at the timing screens like we are, aren't they?
Do they have to stay out there now? 7 seconds Hamilton leads over Perez. Sainz has just been passed by Perez on the last lap. So Sainz has... That was the sound of Verstappen. It was quite a long stop there. I'm
rear left
surprised.
didn't seem to really go on very well, did it?
Yeah, I'm surprised it was 3.3 seconds. And Sainz pitted on the last lap, so that's why he fell down to 7th place. So it's Hamilton, Perez, then Charles Leclerc, who will go to the end on his hard tyres. He's still ahead of Verstappen. So Verstappen emerged behind the Ferrari. There will be an overtake he has to do, at least on Leclerc. And there will be one if Hamilton chooses to stay out as well and make a one-stop work. Hamilton leads 7.5 seconds clear of Perez. Then it's Leclerc on a one-stopper. Then it's Verstappen 1.3 seconds back from him. Norris now 2 seconds back from Verstappen. And the best chance for McLaren seems to have ebbed away with a difficult middle stint. Russell is 6th. Sainz, having pitted, is in 7th position. Then it's Gasly, Alonso now up to 9th, Stroll up to 10th, and Aston Martin having a better day today with 2 cars in the points. Then it's Tsunoda, Ricciardo, Albon, Bottas, Hulkenberg, Sargent, Zhou and Magnussen rounding out the field. Piastri out earlier on with a water leak. Ocon had contact with Piastri in the opening stages. He was out very early on as well, having started in the top 10. And that's where we're at on lap 37 of 56. 19 to go. Who can beat Verstappen?
Well, Lewis Hamilton setting green sectors, personal best sectors, faster than Max Verstappen in the first sector. Max has got traffic in front of him, so he's got Charles Leclerc in front of him. He's going to have the benefit, I expect, of DRS down this back straight. So Hamilton seems pretty comfortable at the moment, I would say, Jolien.
Hamilton now is he is looking good, isn't he? On that hard tyre, he had good pace initially on the first stint, then they suddenly dropped away. That'll be the worry for Mercedes. He looked good, they tried to extend, and then suddenly the tyres fell away. Hamilton had a big lock-up and had to come into the pits. Couldn't go as long as he wanted. It's left him almost in no man's land between a 1 and a 2 stopper right now, but he has a good lead. It's 15 seconds over Verstappen.
So there's 18 laps difference in the tyre life between Hamilton's used hards and the new ones that Verstappen's just put on. That, in theory, according to the team maths, should be about 1.8 seconds of just under 1 second of lap time advantage for Verstappen, and he's 15 seconds behind with 18 laps to go. So I think Hamilton's going to go for it.
That's their only chance.
That's what I was just about to say. They've got no other choice now. They really haven't. He's got to go for it. He's got to set consistent lap times. He's not set a great first sector, though. I don't know whether he got a little bit of traffic somewhere along the line. 27.1 was his previous one. He's just done a 27.7. And Max Verstappen in the first sector alone a 26.9.
So Hamilton leads. Maybe going to the end. Surely going to the end if he wants to try and fight for victory. Leclerc is second, 13 seconds behind. He'll also go to the end, and he could be Hamilton's friend now because he's got Max Verstappen within a second. And we saw Verstappen having to get his elbows out to clear Leclerc on the first stint. This is the sound of the Dutchman now, staring at the back of the Ferrari once again. On the long run down towards turn 12. Verstappen in third, having made a second pit stop. Norris is just behind him, likewise, has just pitted for a second time. They're going to charge up to the back of Leclerc. Verstappen's there right now. Norris is 2 seconds back. He'll take an advantage if Verstappen can't clear Leclerc quickly. The Sainz dives to the inside, past George Russell. Russell also going long, trying to extend, and Sainz having pitted. fitting a new set of hard tyres, is making his way back through, up into 5th position. Perez pitted as well on the last lap, so he drops down to 7th. This is the sound of Max Verstappen now coming through the quadruple right-hander into turn 19, and Lewis Hamilton comes into the pits this lap. Hamilton from the race lead, he pits.
Up on the jacks, the wheels are off, the wheels are on, and he is back out into the fast lane of the pit lane. So he's pitted from the lead. Where is this going to drop him out? We thought he might be doing a 1-stop. It doesn't seem that way now. So 2 stops for Hamilton. I would have thought he'd want a soft tyre, but he hasn't gone for that, I don't think. He's coming up the hill to turn 1. And Jodin, you'll be able to see him from the commentary box, I'm sure, rounding turn 1 as we've still got more action on track with the Ferrari and the Red Bull.
And that is the Red Bull clearing the Ferrari for the race lead. So as Hamilton pitted from the race lead, Leclerc inherited it for all of 300 metres as Verstappen dived down the inside, cleanly on the brakes. And Max Verstappen from 6th place on the grid, with 17 laps to go in the US Grand Prix, has reclaimed the lead of the race. Lando Norris in 3rd position, Lewis Hamilton in 4th, on a set of medium tyres. That might give him a racy strategy now to the end. He'll have better tyre life than those ahead. He'll have a faster tyre than those ahead, and that's now Mercedes' hope as we join Lando Norris in the McLaren on board, looking at the back of Leclerc. The Ferrari glistening in the sunlight in the Austin sun. And Leclerc covers the middle of the road, still wants to race for 2nd place, but Norris dives down, laid on the brakes down the inside, gives Leclerc no chance to cover that, and he is very close to the back of Verstappen still. Leclerc didn't disappear from Verstappen's mirrors. Norris, with the dive down the inside, briefly had a good look at the exhaust of the Red Bull out front. He's 1.1 seconds back, Alice.
He is. He needs to try and close this gap, doesn't he, to get within the DRS. But just as we were saying, yeah, Hamilton's looking pretty good. He comes into the pits. Obviously, those on the pit wall have much more information than we do. But Hamilton really needs to push now, doesn't he?
Yeah, this is the moment that Hamilton has got to just use everything from the medium tyres. The top 3 in this Grand Prix have been Verstappen, Norris and Hamilton since the early stages. They seem to be the 3 fighting it out for a race win. Leclerc was the pole sitter, went long on the first stint, is still out there, having just made 1 pit stop, but is falling down now into 3rd position, having been passed by Verstappen and Norris. Here's George Russell in the pits.
So we've had 1 Mercedes, now we've got a 2nd Mercedes. George Russell getting rid of that hard tyre and also onto the medium. Interestingly, before the Grand Prix, the engineers at Mercedes were telling me that a 2-stop could mean a soft tyre running to the end. But of course, we learned yesterday, didn't we, that a 19-lap race, the sprint race, wasn't a great scenario for that soft tyre, with Carlos Sainz really struggling. So Mercedes learning from that and opting to put their drivers onto the medium tyre for the last part of the race.
The soft tyre, the quickest tyre, but it's also the most fragile. So the medium tyre that Hamilton's on means he can push harder. He can use the pace of his medium tyres rather than having to manage for the last 16 laps of this Grand Prix. Verstappen leads 1.3 seconds clear of Norris, so there's still a fight on. Norris was 2/10 quicker than Verstappen on the last lap. It is still race on. They're not going to have to look after their tyres too much on the hards now with 16 to go. So that's a straight fight. Verstappen ahead of Norris. You'd have thought it'd be advantage Verstappen, but still we've not seen blitzing pace from the Red Bull in this Grand Prix. Sergio Perez's teammates down in 6th. There's a subplot in this one as well, with 2nd in the championship still to play for. Hamilton 27 points behind Perez and closing with pretty much every Grand Prix weekend at the moment. This is the sound of Lewis Hamilton in 4th position. He's 4.4 seconds down on Leclerc, who remains in 3rd, having just stopped once.
He's not switching on these medium tyres though. Looking at the timing screen, he's set purple in the first sector, which is only, well, not even a 10th quicker than Max Verstappen, and then he's fairly even Stevens in the other sectors. He has just set the fastest lap of the race, but he needs more time, doesn't he? He needs to light it up.
Lap 41 of 56. There's 15 laps to go. Verstappen leads from Norris, a 1.5 between the Red Bull and the McLaren that led the early stages of this one. After Lando Norris took the lead immediately off the line from 2nd place, took it from Charles Leclerc, led in the first stint, led in the middle stint, was passed by Verstappen, and as they both took a 2nd stop, Verstappen leads 1.6 seconds clear of Norris. Leclerc is 3rd, Hamilton 4th, and he is 7.5 seconds back from the race-leading Dutchman. Verstappen, Norris, Leclerc, Hamilton, Sainz, Perez, Alonso now up to 7th, will have to pit again. Then it's Russell 8th, Gasly 9th, Tsunoda 10th, and Lance Stroll takes a pit stop out of the points now. He tumbles down to 11th place ahead of Ricciardo, Albon, Hulkenberg, Sargent, Bottas, Zhou and Magnussen. It's been a good Grand Prix. It's been an intriguing Grand Prix. It's kind of got the inevitable Verstappen race leader now. That's what everyone thought we'd have, but we've still got race on because the pace that he's got is not in a different league to either Norris or Hamilton. The McLaren team and the Mercedes team making gains through the year, and Norris still within 2 seconds, but he's just starting to drift away.
Yeah, I wonder if Max is just out there controlling the pace now, because he doesn't need to light it up.
Just in front at this stage, Max, but time lost to Checo 39.8, braking 11, 12, 20.
Yeah, I know, man, my brakes are just...
Yeah, as I say, it was just information.
Time lost to Checo.
Oh, something we don't hear very often, do we?
Verstappen, though, complaining of the brakes. He's not feeling comfortable with that brake pedal. Made a mistake earlier on at turn 11, as did Hamilton, as did Norris. All the top three having to push really, really hard in this Grand Prix. They're able to take the tyres right to the end. Leclerc managing a little bit more on his one-stopper. Verstappen 1.8 seconds back, so Norris not disappearing back. Still the papaya car, the papaya McLaren. The driver that's not won a Grand Prix yet is staring at the race leader. He's within 2 seconds with 14 laps to go. Leclerc 3 seconds further back. He's going to be joined by Lewis Hamilton shortly. Hamilton, the fastest man of the top four on the circuit on the last lap. He was 0.6 quicker than Verstappen. He was nearly a second quicker than Norris, and he's now within 7 seconds of the race lead.
Yeah, he is, but how can he do it with not many laps left, as Alex Albon now has a little look round the outside of one of the Alpha Tauris. That is Daniel Ricciardo. He swoops around the outside of turn 2 and moves.
It's a nice move from Albon. Ricciardo defended the inside at turn 1. Albon just drove around him around turn 2. It's a flat-out downhill right-hander, and Ricciardo gave him the space. Albon through into 12th position. Daniel Ricciardo returning today, having sat out 4 Grand Prix. Broke his metacarpal in FP2, the second practice in Zandvoort in September. Returning, running in 13th. Said he was a little rusty after the sprint yesterday, lost places in the early stages, and he's in 13th. Yuki Tsunoda in the other AlphaTauri is 10th. This is the sound of Lewis Hamilton now. He's with Charles Leclerc. Leclerc in the Ferrari is 3rd. Hamilton is 4th. Leclerc looks in his mirrors and covers the inside line as they come into turn 1 on lap 43. Hamilton's just done the fastest lap of the race. It's 8 tenths quicker than race leader Verstappen, and then nose to tail coming through turn 2. The next one's a left-hander. Should be flat out, but Hamilton has to blend off. He's so close behind the Ferrari. It's difficult to pass through this first sector now. 3, 4, 5, 6, the right. Slow it down a gear for 7. And he's got a chance coming up now. Coming through turn 9, the difficult one over the crest. There's a big bump there that can unsettle the cars. And Hamilton now flat out behind Leclerc coming down towards turn 11. Looks to the inside, feigns. Leclerc covers the inside, but he's not got the traction on his Ferrari. He's on an old hard tyre, and Hamilton on a fresh medium has got the bit between his teeth. He's got the DRS as well. And can Leclerc do anything about this attack? He goes to the middle of the road, but Hamilton goes right to the inside, and he's through, surely, cleanly. Before they even hit the brakes, there goes Hamilton. Completed on the brakes, set up in the preceding corners. He's got the pace, and he's got 3rd position. 3.8 seconds to the car ahead. Hamilton is on the charge.
Yeah, he's got to turn it up now. He probably lost a little bit of time. You could tell as he squirmed out of the final corner. He was desperate to try and get past Carlos Sainz into turn 1. Wasn't quite close enough, so then had to wait for the rest of sector 1, and then technically you could say towards the end of sector 2 before he had the chance to use that DRS and dive down the inside of turn 12. But he's got to really turn it up now. Max Verstappen is still got Lando Norris behind, but the gap now is 2.3 seconds.
So Verstappen leads Norris. As you said, 2.3 seconds between the top 2. Norris is not bad on pace, but he's just losing a 10th here. 10th there, and the gap is extending. 2.4 seconds between the top 2. Then it's 3.5 seconds back to Hamilton, who, despite passing Leclerc on the brakes down the inside at turn 12, lost nothing to the race leader out front. He is the fastest man on track right now. Hamilton back into the podium places and staring down at the McLaren ahead and closing in on the early race leader, Lando Norris. Leclerc is 4th, going to the end on an old hard. Then it's his teammate Charles Leclerc 5th. Sergio Perez in the second Red Bull is 6th. Russell's having a quiet race in 7th, ahead of Gasly, Tsunoda and Alonso, the top 10. Stroll, the other Aston Martin, behind his teammate in 11th. Albon, Ricciardo, Hulkenberg, Sargent, Bottas, Zhou and Magnussen. Still the runners circulating outside of the top 10. But we've still got a fight on for the podium places. Here's Hamilton.
There's a big gap ahead. Yeah, you're pulling in, mate. You're pulling them in. So forecast P2, maybe the win.
I think the win's going to be tight, but it's interesting how the communications, isn't it, between Hamilton and Bono? We've seen it throughout the year, we've seen it previous years as well. He's always having to try and pick Hamilton up, isn't he? Hamilton's looking down the road and thinking, I can't get this, but Bono's like, you can, keep pushing.
It sounds very negative, doesn't it, from Lewis? From the word go, things have been on the, and if you just listen to the radio, not going well for him. But sometimes these are when he produces his best drives, when he thinks things are against him.
What do you think about plan C or keep plan D?
Well, the plan C is ruining my race. Now better try. It's too late.
That's the radio communication for Charles Leclerc. He's in fourth and is struggling now towards the end. 11 laps to go. He's got Sainz catching him. He'll have Perez catching him, and then there's a bit more of a gap to George Russell. But yeah, Hamilton, sometimes it seems like things are not going his way, but actually gets a bit of reassurance from Bono, says, yeah, you're actually doing pretty well here, and then he can just go on these charges. We've seen it so many times down the line. He's always been good at the US Grand Prix as well. He's always done well ever since the first race here, which he won in 2012. He loves this place. He gets a huge reception from the crowd every time. We've got 400 fans through the gates here this weekend. And Hamilton is trying to put on a display for the top 3 positions. He's certainly there right now. Can he get to the top 2 or the top 1? Fernando Alonso has put on a latest move on his charge past Yuki Tsunoda. Nice move from him, swerving to the inside of the road as Tsunoda defended quite late. That's Alonso up to 9th. Now Hulkenberg puts on a late charge down the inside of Daniel Ricciardo, who's falling back at this stage, and Hulkenberg is past the other AlphaTauri. So Tsunoda dropping to 10th, Ricciardo dropping to 14th. That was a nice looking move from Hulkenberg.
Yep, nice and clean. Good job there. The race about 20 laps ago wasn't looking the greatest, was it? But Hulkenberg has clearly found a little bit of pace in his hat now as he moves up into 13th place. But Max Verstappen has just set the fastest first sector of anybody during this race, so he's looking fairly comfortable on that hard tyre as the fans continue to watch on, and as we wait as they go across the line, he's matching Hamilton in lap time.
That's the voice of Alice Powell alongside me, Jolyon Palmer. We've got the thoughts of Andrew Benson with us as well, and Rosanna Tennant down in the pits. We're on lap 46 of 56 in the US Grand Prix. This is the sound of Daniel Ricciardo falling further back on his return to Formula One racing, having sat out the last 4 Grand Prix. It's Logan Sargent coming past in the other Williams now, the American, having a cleaner Grand Prix. Started at the back and is now into 14th position. 18 drivers still in. We've got Piastri out of this one, had a water leak early on. Ocon had contact with Piastri and retired with damage after the opening skirmishes as well. So 18 drivers left. Verstappen leads by 3 seconds. Hamilton is
same pace as Hamilton.
Please, no talking and in the braking.
Understood those.
Hamilton is matching Verstappen for pace. He's in 3rd, but they've got Lando Norris between them, and Norris is just drifting back. So Verstappen on the last lap, 1 minute 40.2. Norris 1 minute 40.6 in the McLaren. He's now 3.2 seconds behind the race-leading Red Bull, who is a little bit stressed, and he's really struggling with the brakes.
Yeah, I mean, clearly he felt the engineer was on the radio in the braking zone, which is never a nice thing to have as a driver, as you're focusing, entering a corner, whether it's fast or slow. But yeah, Hamilton is not matching Max, but he's a little bit quicker than Norris, so there's still a chance with 10 laps left to go for him to try and snatch 2nd place.
Verstappen's pace falling away slightly on the last lap, 1 minute 40.5. Norris falling away even quicker, 1 minute 41.1. They're both falling towards Hamilton, but are they falling quick enough? Norris certainly is. There's just 2.3 seconds between the 2 Brits now. Norris in 2nd. Hamilton pitted later, fitted a set of medium tyres, and he's got the pace now to challenge for 2nd place, certainly. He was 3/10 quicker than Verstappen on the last lap. The gap between the top 3 in this race with 9 laps to go is 5.6 seconds. And when you've got problems with the brakes, it's difficult, it's disconcerting, and it's also an easy area to make a mistake. We've seen that already with some of the best drivers today.
Yeah, we have, especially down into turn 11, which is where Hamilton and Norris are entering now. Get the car rotated, get the car turned and foot to the floor. That gap now is down to 1.6 seconds between Hamilton and Norris, so it won't be long now until Lewis is right on the back, and he'll claw his way quite quickly once he gets the benefit of DRS. and that gap now 3.7 seconds between Norris and Verstappen. So Norris struggling on these hard tyres in this stint.
He's struggling the hard tyres on the previous stint as well. The first one was not looking too bad for him. Lando Norris took the lead at the start of the race, got the jump on Charles Leclerc, had the inside for the first corner, had a pretty serene first stint ahead of Hamilton. Verstappen started 6th, passed Russell at the start, then picked off Sainz and Leclerc, undercut Hamilton in the first stops. He's been ahead of Lewis Hamilton ever since, passed Lando Norris on the road in the middle stint. He's now leading the race, but he's not home and dry just yet. He just extends the gap now to 4.1 seconds over Norris, who is fading with 8 laps to go. Hamilton 1 second back as they come up the hill, up to Big Red, the first corner on this Circuit of America's track, up the hill, really, really steep, and then descend into the fastest corners. And Norris is ahead of Hamilton by just the 1 second. Hamilton now 5.2 seconds back from Verstappen, half a second quicker on the last lap. Don't think he's going to quite get there, but this has been a great display for Mercedes.
It hasn't been enough, and I wonder if Hamilton will look back and be, well, if only I got a better launch off the line, because he was stuck behind Sainz for a few laps at the start.
Very late movement.
That's Lance Stroll complaining about the defensive move from Yuki Tsunoda. Stroll then moved to the outside as Tsunoda covered the inside very, very late. Stroll, who put on a late move on Fernando Alonso, causing a big crash last year. The two now teammates. Alonso survived that one and got some points. Surviving right now in second place is Lando Norris. He's got Lewis Hamilton for company. They're nose to tail now through turn 13, the right-hander, and Norris cannot turn the car. Hamilton is side by side with him immediately coming down through 14. It's a right-hand swerve before the left-hand turn 15, and Norris is struggling. He's scrappy. Hamilton gets the traction now out of 15. They're side by side, the McLaren and the Mercedes. The papaya car holds the black Mercedes behind, but for how long? Into the penultimate corner, the quick left-hander of turn 19. They're both good on track limits. No one else has been picked for track limits for a while. Everyone else being careful as Alonso radios in a suspension failure. That's going to be a heartbreak for him after a good Grand Prix. Norris checks the mirrors, left and right. Hamilton's right with him, surely with a chance to move. Norris with a late defence to the inside. Hamilton went with him. Norris holds the place, went in late on the brakes, but this is the sound of the Mercedes getting the traction. They're still side by side through turn 2, but Hamilton keeps it pinned around the outside and finally completes the move. He's into second place, and wow, that was close between them into turn 1.
Yeah, it certainly was. Very close, real hard racing between these two British drivers, and fair racing as well, which is what we like to see. Fastest lap.
So we can't see anything yet, fam. We can't see anything.
So fastest lap for George Russell, and that was the engineers saying to Fernando Alonso that they can't see anything, but the sound now is Lewis Hamilton you're riding on board with. Norris moved to the left. I think he just outbroke himself, didn't he? He went too deep into turn 1, and then Hamilton got the perfect switch back, and then he was through.
Yeah, Norris had to check the mirrors, was so focused on the 7-time champ behind him, and then missed the break point slightly. Hamilton dummied to the inside in the end, covered the outside, and took second place, Rosanna.
And there was a huge cheer, Jolien, as Lewis Hamilton got that move done. We heard on the radio, didn't we, his engineer Peter Bonington saying second place is on here, maybe even the win. Well, Lewis has finished second here on the last 3 visits to Austin, Texas. And of course, he's been a 5-time winner. So which stat is he going to add to this afternoon?
Here's Hamilton.
Nice work, Lewis. We've got Verstappen. He is 5 seconds ahead. He is managing a brakes issue, though.
They want it. They want the win. There's 6 laps to go. Verstappen comes past our commentary position here, outside of the final corner, starting the main straight, and he starts lap 50 of 56. Stephen Nolan will follow us at 10 o'clock tonight, but we've got 6 laps left of the US Grand Prix. It's been that exciting, and we've still got battles going on. Hamilton has plenty to do now, though. 5 seconds away from Verstappen. He's going to need Verstappen to fall into trouble from here.
He is. He's going to hope that those brake issues continue for Max. He has set the fastest first sector of anyone as Lewis Hamilton, but I just think it could be a little bit too late. It's now 4.9 seconds, so he's closed the gap ever so slightly, but the Ferraris are looking very, very close. Charles Leclerc was a bit frustrated on the radio. He's now going to have his teammate all over the back of him with the benefit of DRS as well as they head down the straight into turn 12.
It's a forlorn attempt on a one-stopper for Leclerc in the Ferrari. The pole sitter had brilliant pace on Friday, took the pole position, and now he cedes 4th position to his teammate.
Let Sainz by, do not lose time.
And it's just not gone his way, but the Ferrari car just doesn't look like it's had the pace anyway in race trim. Struggled yesterday to 3rd, and now 4th and 5th. Sainz has had a good drive, having looked like he's been shadowing his teammate all the time in one-lap pace. His race pace has been good, was on the soft tyres, and for the second time in 2 days really, Ferrari doing something different on strategy, and after a bit of to and fro on the drivability of the Aston Martin, Fernando Alonso becomes the 3rd retirement on lap 49. Aston Martin radio said they could see some floor damage rather than rear suspension damage, and finally he is in the pits and out of the race. A shame for Fernando Alonso, who was having a good drive, recovering something for Aston Martin after a horrible weekend for the team that was ruthlessly on the podium pretty much every race in the early Grand Prix. There was only 2 Grand Prix out of the first 8 that Alonso wasn't either 2nd or 3rd, but now they're struggling, and it's just Lance Stroll there in 9th place with 5 laps to go, trying to take some points for Aston Martin. So the order is this: Verstappen, Hamilton behind within 5 seconds now, but only trimming it down the race lead by 2/10, 3/10 on the last lap. Norris is 3rd and falling away. Sainz has just passed his teammate Charles Leclerc with team orders for 4th and 5th. Here's Leclerc.
Why do I have to let Sainz by? Let's take us to the race.
Well, I think because they were covering Perez. So Perez seems to have fairly decent pace, and he is quickly catching, well, certainly Charles Leclerc saying that the last lap wasn't the best for Perez that he's been doing previously. But Lewis Hamilton was really, really pushing through turn 9 all over the curve. So he is giving it everything. But Verstappen, he's still got pace in his Red Bull and in those hard tyres, because he's set the fastest first sector of anybody in sector 1. So Max looking comfortable.
I see Norris is slow, no?
Yeah, 1 second lower than us. Push.
Let's go.
Let's go.
5 laps to go, and Sainz fancies a podium in this one. He's 4.4 seconds behind Lando Norris. He's got plenty to do to catch the McLaren driver, the early race leader. But with the way that Norris is going, he is dropping off, and this will be a real head scratcher for McLaren, who thought they had pretty handy race pace after the sprint yesterday.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were looking all right, weren't they, after the sprint, as you said there, Julian. And Sainz has set his best lap of the race so far, so really is trying to charge down 8/10 quicker on the previous lap compared to Lando Norris, matching Norris in the first sector alone. Hamilton is coming up to a little bit of traffic, but I think no commentator's curse going on here, but this might be our top 2, certainly with Verstappen and Hamilton. That gap staying there around about 4.8 seconds.
Yeah, the early charge from Hamilton on this set of mediums seems to be ebbing away now. He's still 4.8 seconds back from Verstappen. It's been a good Grand Prix. It has been exciting all the way through, but Verstappen now, it seems the inevitable is coming closer. Everyone thought he'd run away with it after he cruised past the field in the sprint yesterday.
You can do it.
I'm going to try for
Let's go. Let's go.
So that's the radio to Carlos Sainz. Leclerc now has Sergio Perez right with him, and I guess that's a team radio message to Sainz after Leclerc questioned the team radio, the swap decision of the Ferraris. That's the logic, is to allow Sainz to chase and get the podium whilst Leclerc covers Perez behind.
I think it was as well to make sure that Perez didn't catch up the back of them and slow each other down. So that's what I imagine. But also it could be as well that they saw the pace of Lando Norris and they thought that, yeah, we've got a chance of a podium, but it's still the gap at 4 seconds with 3 laps left to go.
Perez sniffing around for 5th place here. He's tucked in behind the Ferrari, whose forlorn hopes on this one stopper is getting worse and worse with a few laps to go. He's hanging on as Charles Leclerc, and he's got nothing left to defend from Sergio Perez, who has the traction and drives clean around the outside of the Monegasque driver as they exit turn 1. Perez into 5th place, and this hasn't been the master strategy that Ferrari were hoping for Leclerc, who took the lead whilst everyone pitted earlier on and now is paying the price. Leclerc drops to 6th. They will not be swapping those Ferraris round at the end of the Grand Prix, which is probably what Leclerc was hoping for with his radio message, because he's just dropping away too far. And I don't think Sainz is doing enough to catch Norris either.
No, he's not, but yeah, Leclerc is already over a second. He's way out of DRS, and we see him run wide there at 11. He's certainly not happy with that Ferrari. It doesn't look in any real shape to challenge anyone, to be honest. Norris has now turned up the pace ever so slightly, setting a personal best sector in sector 1. So he's trying to make sure that he's eking even more and more pace out of his McLaren. But this looks like, I think he will have enough pace over Carlos Sainz.
So Max Verstappen leads. He's 3.9 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton. 3 laps to go. Hamilton is still drawing in that gap. It's been a good drive. The Mercedes has shown more race pace here than it has for quite a long time. And Hamilton can see the race leader as they head up the hill towards the first corner. But with 3 laps to go, it'll need a mistake. It'll need an issue for Verstappen to lose this one. 3.6 seconds between the top 2. Norris drifting away all the while. Is 6 seconds behind Hamilton now in 3rd, but looking safe ahead of Sainz. 4 seconds behind him in 4th. Then it's Perez, who's just passed Leclerc, 5th, ahead of Leclerc in 6th. Russell 7th. There's a big gap then. Back to Gasly, ahead of Stroll, and Yuki Tsunoda currently in the final points position. Alex Albon in 11th, but he is the only driver right now to have been given a 5-second penalty for track limits. He's 11th, ahead of his teammate Logan Sargent in 12th. Decent run from Sargent, 7.5 seconds behind Albon. And then it's Hulkenberg, Bottas, Zhou, Magnussen and Ricciardo.
Gap 3.6.
No talking and the braking, man.
Hey, Alice is now 3.2. It's coming down all the while. Verstappen was having to manage an issue at the end of the Qatar Grand Prix as well last time out. He's still got 3 seconds, but he is not taking his foot off the gas. He is not cruising to victory right now.
No, he's not. And actually, he's struggling in that middle sector. And sector 2 has the heavy braking of 11 and the heavy braking of 12. So Max Verstappen, he's saying, stop talking in the braking. I'm assuming that is the braking zone. They do have the benefit of GPS, so either that's not working properly, well, it can't be working properly for Red Bull, because that's the second time that his engineer has spoke to him in the braking zone, as we wait for them to cross the line. 2.8 is the gap now.
It's race on in the closing stages of the US Grand Prix. It is not a done deal just yet. Hamilton on the last lap, 0.8 quicker than Max Verstappen, the race leader, on the penultimate lap. Verstappen still has 2.8 seconds ahead of his old rival Lewis Hamilton, who's hunting down a first victory in nearly 2 years. Verstappen has traffic ahead. It's Kevin Magnussen in the Haas running in 16th. He's still running behind Zhou. Those two having a battle for 15th position. And Verstappen's going to be looking at the back of them, hoping they jump out of the way in just a moment. They're coming up towards turn 11. The Alfa Romeo and the Haas about to be lapped by the race leader. The gap is now 2.3 seconds. It's coming down corner by corner. This is really, really getting tight. They now stretch up the crest, on the long back straight. Verstappen needs these guys to get out of the way without losing time, and Verstappen looks like he's slowing and immediately yields to the race leader. How about Hamilton? 2.2 seconds back, he gets an easy pass past Kevin Magnussen as well. Magnussen jumps out of the way nicely. Hamilton has followed Verstappen through. There's one more back marker ahead, and it's Zhou Guanyu, the Chinese driver in the Alfa Romeo. Verstappen now 2 seconds ahead of Hamilton. There's going to be 1 lap to go, plus 4 corners.
I think it's too late. I think it's just going to be too late. Unfortunately, gap at 2 seconds now, but it's that middle sector, Jolien, again, that is really hurting Max Verstappen. Half a second slower than Lewis Hamilton. The 2 heavy braking zones. So this braking problem is getting worse and worse. 1.8 now as we're crossing the line to go on to the final lap.
And what do you need when you're in wheel-to-wheel battle? You need to be late on the brakes and you need to be comfortable without making a mistake. Can Hamilton do enough to put pressure on Verstappen on this final lap? Verstappen leads by 1.8 seconds. He's got 1 more car to lap on this final lap. Hamilton can see the race lead. He's hunting it down on a much fresher medium tyre, and he was just over a second quicker on the last lap. It shouldn't be enough, but he's applying the pressure. Does Verstappen crack under pressure, though? Not historically.
Not often, but he's going to get, I think, Jolien, the benefit of the DRS detection here going into turn 11. It looks like from our view that he was just within detection zone of Zhou, who's the back marker ahead. Lewis Hamilton, 1.4 seconds again. Let's have a look. Yep, so Max's DRS is open, so someone's watching over him as he's going to get the real benefit of DRS there, and Hamilton won't. So it looks like now, with about 4 or 5 corners left to go, actually a bit more than that, 6 corners left to go, that he is fairly safe.
Every little helps at this stage for Max Verstappen. The DRS protects him in the final real overtaking opportunity. Hamilton didn't manage to close the gap. The gap's still 1.8 seconds, and he remains behind the Alfa Romeo. Verstappen can start to breathe a little easier as he comes through turn 16, 17, 18. Feeling it through these final corners into turn 19. The track limits he exceeded here gave him and gave us this brilliant Grand Prix this afternoon. But now he comes out of the final corner and it's become routine in 2023. But Max Verstappen takes his hardest race win of the year. The fireworks go off and Verstappen pulls off to the inside. He celebrates with his team. It's another victory for the champion. It's second place for Lewis Hamilton, 2 seconds behind in the end. We were so close to having a dramatic finale, but Hamilton will be happy with that. And there's cheers for McLaren as well, with Lando Norris coming through in 3rd place. I really enjoyed that Grand Prix, Alice.
That was great. We've not just had a few more laps there. A few more laps is all we needed. But what a race. What a great race. OK, Max Verstappen has won again, but there were battles. He was pushed, wasn't he, to all the way to the end there. He sounded stressed. OK, he had some brake problems, but it wasn't easy for Max. So I'd be interested to hear if he's happy over the radio, because the past few wins he's had, he's been quite calm. So I feel like he really had to work for this one.
Race win number 15 of 18 Grand Prix this year. It has been a season of domination. Verstappen has wrapped up the driver's title already. Red Bull are constructors champions, but he still wants to win every Grand Prix, and he was feeling the heat in that one, and he has taken the win here in Austin. Yuki Tsunoda comes out of the final corner and claims the final point. So the top 10 in the end is Verstappen, Hamilton, Norris the podium, then Sainz, Sergio Perez in 5th position, Leclerc 6th, Russell 7th, Gasly 8th, Lance Stroll taking points for Aston Martin and Yuki Tsunoda.
Well done. Enjoy the celebrations. I'll see you Friday.
All right, mate. Well done. Well done. Tough race, but still won, so that's good.
Yeah, well done, mate. That's win number 50 for you, and quite a few in a row in the US now. So, yeah, we're very well managed with the issues you had. Well done.
Yeah, exactly. Good win still. Great job.
He's not elated, is he? He's not elated after that.
No.
Where's GP off to then in the next few days?
See you Friday. I mean, you would have thought they have some kind of debrief after the race. No, let's hear from Hamilton.
Nice work, Lewis. So that's P2, mate. That was an amazing drive. We just needed a couple more laps.
Fantastic weekend, guys. Really well done. We've got work to do in lots of different areas, but let's keep pushing. Thank you to everyone back at the factory for the upgrade. Let's keep pushing. We're getting closer. Next time. I really appreciate you not giving up on us.
No, never give up, mate. Never give up. That's a solid drive.
Great drive from Hamilton today. He waves to the crowd. He always gets great support at the American Grand Prix, and it's no different here in Austin. It was an exhilarating Grand Prix for him. Race-long battle with Lando Norris. Norris taking 3rd position. Another podium. 6 now in the last 9 Grand Prix. Here's his radio.
Aye. That was a tough one. But another podium.
So here's the question. Could Mercedes, if they'd done something different on the first pit stop call, where they had Verstappen behind, with the pace of the Mercedes today and the pace of Red Bull, they let Verstappen undercut them. If they'd done something different, could they have won the race today?
I think they could have. Yeah, I think with the gaps there at the end, I think it was Lewis could have won that race. Yeah, I'm not going to waffle on about it. The simple fact is, I think he could have won that race if he got a better start. Obviously, he got bulked, didn't he, behind Sainz. He lost a place at the start, lost some time there behind him. So it's frustrating, but Max Verstappen, he's going to be pleased with it, isn't he, Rosanna?
He is, and he's standing on top of his RB19 Red Bull car, raising his fist to the sky, and there's a huge cheer as he jumps off the car and jumps into the arms of his mechanics who've helped him get another victory in 2023. I tell you what, it is hot down here in the pit lane, blazing sunshine, but I imagine that's making for some good pictures and videos. Everybody holding their phones aloft to capture what is going on here at the Circuit of the Americas. A packed out audience for the podium, people up in the Paddock Club area, the sort of smart hospitality, all leaning over the barriers, desperate to get a picture of Max Verstappen. And there's a lot of cheering going on in the grandstand as well, opposite on the start-finish straight. Everybody on their feet cheering on the podium finishers. And there's a lot of McLaren support here as well as I look out into the crowd. A lot of people wearing papaya orange, treated to a podium this afternoon through Lando Norris's hard work.
And this was also a great drive from Verstappen. When you've got brake issues, you're managing problems on a difficult circuit, high speed, bumpy, some big stops in there as well. It's easy to make a mistake. It's easy to lock up and throw away a chunk of lap time. But he was just reeling off those laps in the end metronomically to keep Hamilton at bay. Hamilton gives a thumbs up to his team. He looks like he's worked hard in that 56-lap race, doesn't he?
He looks tired. It took a little while to get out of the car. I don't know whether he was just taking in the podium, feeling like maybe he missed out a little bit. He sounded very happy on the radio though, didn't he? But it took a little of a while to get out of the car. And one of the FIA stewards went over and said, are you all right? Stuck his head in, and Lewis gave the thumbs up. So just having a moment there to himself. But he certainly worked hard throughout the entire race, but especially those last remaining laps.
Stephen Nolan is coming up in about 15 minutes, rounding up all today's news. But after the US Grand Prix, it's another win for Max Verstappen. A good Grand Prix, a chase all the way to the flag that saw Lewis Hamilton finish second, Lando Norris making it 2 Brits on the podium, finishing third, 2.2 seconds separating the top two. And there's a lot of drivers looking weary after that one. They were struggling to stand up after the Grand Prix in Qatar last time out. This time, Verstappen and Norris having a conversation, discussing the race, maybe discussing the race-winning move in the end as Verstappen sent the car down the inside at turn 12, made it stick on track, caught Norris by surprise maybe earlier on. Norris a decent pace but just struggled in the latter phases on his hard tyre stints, 2 of them today. 2-stop race for everyone, bar Charles Leclerc, who made it through in the end on a 1-stopper in 6th position. Sergio Perez finishing 5th. Losing 10 points to Hamilton in the battle for second in the championship. That'll go on in the last 4 Grand Prix of the year. Hamilton with a lot of momentum, gunning for a top 2. Splitting the Red Bulls in the championship would be a great result for him. Certainly still motivated for it.
He certainly is, as the remainder of the drivers are out of their cars.
They look so weary, don't they?
They do. I mean, they don't look like anything compared to Qatar, though.
We can hear from the top 3, though, now. They're going to be interviewed by 2009 champion.
Congratulations, Max Verstappen. You've just won the US Grand Prix. Some might say it's just a Max Verstappen win, but that one looked a little bit more complicated than normal.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it started already with starting in P6, but I think the whole race I was struggling a lot with the brakes. So, around here there are quite a few braking points, and I couldn't really have the same feeling as yesterday. So that definitely made my race a bit tougher out there today. But you could see it was very close to the end. And then also with the back markers, when the tires are already going, it makes it all a bit more difficult.
Were you biding your time through the race? Because I think a lot of us expected you to be in the lead a lot earlier. It took sort of 28, 29 laps before you challenged for the lead.
Yeah, I mean, of course you don't want to destroy the tires, but like I said before, at the same time I was struggling a lot on the braking. So it took quite a while to at least find a bit of a middle way.
How does it feel to be part of the 50 wins group with this guy over here, Lewis Hamilton, and only a few others?
Yeah, I mean, that's of course incredible to win my 50th Grand Prix here as well. So, very proud, of course. And, we'll just keep on trying to push for more.
Congratulations, Max.
Thank you.
Lewis, watching the whole weekend this weekend, you've looked faultless. It looks like you feel at home in this car, you have confidence in this upgrade, and so close to challenging Max today.
Yeah, I think first of all we have to congratulate these guys. This team has just done an incredible job all year long, just dominated, and Max has been really flawless. So we were catching him towards the end, and I was hopeful, but we needed some more laps. We had the team did an amazing job this weekend. So much work to bring this upgrade here. And honestly, it was really difficult after the last race. Firstly, with like everything that's going on in the world, and then obviously the big mistake that I made. And I really felt like I let the team down so much, so I had to go through a real deep process of getting myself back to here. And it was, again, just one of those experiences of it's not how you fall, it's how you get back up. So came in fighting, felt great, and really happy with this result.
It must feel pretty special here, because I know, having worked with you, how much this place means to you. Obviously racing in America, but this circuit, you're a bit of an expert when it comes to
I've just always loved the States, ever since I was like 8 years old when I came out here. First to Albuquerque, then Los Angeles and Las Vegas, which I can't wait for us to go and race. But I've just always felt really welcome here. The people have been so welcoming, and getting to work with lots of great companies. So it's a really progressive country, and I'm super grateful for the support that we have.
You've done so much for this sport, Lewis, so it's lovely to see you fighting at the front again.
Thanks, man. Cheers. Thank you, guys.
Lando, if it was a sprint, it would have been yours. But it didn't quite hold on. But the pace looked so good in the first stint.
Yeah, it's just leading the race. I could control it a lot, but just not enough today. But I'm happy. It was a good race from my side. We knew our struggles. We knew what was going to be difficult today, and it was just the degradation. But the pace over the first 10 laps of every stint, the pace in the beginning was strong. I just couldn't hold on long enough. So we're getting there. Progress every weekend. Just some more steps needed.
You're also racing with the two best in the business at the moment, and pretty aggressive defending from yourself on Lewis out there at turn 1.
I mean, I had to try, right? But I just couldn't do it. I didn't have enough tyres left at the end. You saw how quickly he pulled away at the end. So, I always had to look after my own race. I did the best I could. I had to push and look after the tyres, and it was just too difficult today. So maybe if it was a cooler track, it would have suited us a little bit more, but it wasn't. But I'm so happy. The team have done an excellent job. To finish on the podium here was still better than we were expecting coming into the weekend. So very happy.
Cool. Congratulations, mate. Keep it up for Lando.
Thank you.
The 2009 Formula One World Champion Jenson Button asking the questions there to your top 3 finishers from the US Grand Prix: Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris. And let me tell you, the track invasion has well and truly begun here at the Circuit of the Americas. The fans are pouring into the start-finish straight. They are up on the barriers overlooking the pit lane, desperate to get a glimpse of the drivers, and they were cheering so loudly when Lewis Hamilton was being interviewed by Jenson Button. And it was interesting, wasn't it, Jolien? Jenson saying how much Lewis has done for this sport, and great to see him back at the front. And we must remember, they were old teammates.
They were, yeah. And Lewis has done a huge amount for Formula One in America as well, winning the first Grand Prix here in 2012. He's always had huge support. But I have to say, being around in Austin this weekend, go out for dinner in the evenings, enjoy some tacos and see all manner of different paraphernalia. Lando Norris fans now, Fernando Alonso always having huge support. We've heard so much from Verstappen fans. Sergio Perez having a lot of support, the Mexican who will have a home race next week. And so it's not just Lewis Hamilton anymore. I feel like he was the catalyst for Formula One racing in America when it returned in 2012. But he always has the lion's share here and put on a show for us today.
And Lando, driver of the day as well.
Thanks, fans. Basically a win then, really.
What a joke at Lando Norris. He thought he was never going to be able to challenge Max Verstappen, but he's taken driver of the day. And of course, we'll discuss our driver of the day on the Checkered Flag podcast a little later on, as we hope to be able to listen in to what the drivers are saying in the cool down room. Always nice to listen in to what the top 3 have to say.
Yeah, the hard time was not that good. I already saw in the first stint of Lando that they were not good. So yeah.
And it's always juicy gossip, as you can hear. So discussing how the tyres are behaving today, Jolien. It was a tricky one, incredibly hot here still at the Circuit of the Americas.
Yeah, Hamilton crouching down, he's actually kneeling on the floor. The drivers were definitely really having to work there.
The wheel was changing a lot, like 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, one lap it was okay, and then the other lap understeer over.
Like there was one lap I went like 5/10 quicker.
And then the next lap again.
The conditions playing their part, and as I look up to turn 1 from the pit lane and the podium area, the flag definitely sort of changing direction, how it's been billowing over the course of the weekend. And as I spoke to James Vowles, the team principal of Williams, before the race got going, he was mindful of the wind, and it seems like the drivers have been dealing with different conditions out there perhaps than what they were used to over the last couple of days.
They always delve into the minutiae of a,
yeah,
of a
as I
race,
say,
don't
it's
they?
hot gossip, this, isn't it?
Tyre pressures and wind and a little bit of brake balance, that's the detail that the top drivers are playing with. And it was a difficult race, wasn't it, Alice? There was mistakes from so many drivers, nothing huge, no one ending with a spin or a crash. 3 retirements, but all through reliability really, but all of the drivers once again being put through their paces today.
Yeah, it's a good showing, and it was nice to see that we're having a fight to the very end of the race, wasn't it? 2.2 seconds was the gap as they crossed the line, and let's hope for more of this with the few races that we've got remaining for the rest of the season.
Well, the crowd are gathered beneath the podium, and they're starting to introduce the drivers onto the podium one by one. Of course, it'll be Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen up there, and the fans are cheering, as you can hear, all around the circuit. And I think we've had a bit of a spectacle this afternoon for these fans to enjoy. 400,000 will have come through the gates, and they're going to get to enjoy the podium celebrations now at the Circuit of the Americas. I'm going to head a little bit further away so I can get an even better vantage point. But Jolien, you said in commentary that perhaps this is the best race of the year. Still stand by that one?
Well, I enjoyed it for a dry race without having the drama of intermediates and cars slithering around. It was good. And the top 3 all working hard and really collecting their thoughts now on the podium. And 3 happy teams as well, Alice.
Yeah, no, 3 happy teams. It's nice to see Lando and Lewis especially as well up there on the podium. Lewis feeling so close. Again, as I said, wonder if he's just will be a little look back and think, if only I got a better start off the line and I wasn't quite stuck behind. A Mercedes might look back maybe if we pitted Lewis slightly earlier. Could they be standing on the middle step?
But hey, at least Mercedes can look at this Grand Prix and think maybe there was a chance to win it. Maybe there wasn't. It was 2.2 seconds in the end. We already heard Pete Bonnington say a couple more laps. That's already a maybe. 56 laps. If it was 58, they would have been nose to tail right at the end. But a bit of strategy. There were things potentially Mercedes could do, but at least they could do it. It's the 3rd win in a row for Max Verstappen, who's starting a new run, having been beaten in Singapore. But he romped away in Japan. In Qatar, he never looked at like it was in doubt. This time, he really had to work for it. And I think that's encouraging for Mercedes and for McLaren as well. Norris looking comfortable on that medium tyre earlier on. Maybe they'll look at the strategy of going for 2 sets of hard tyres and think that was where they fell back. But at least they're in range of Red Bull again.
It's encouraging for us as well. We've got, hopefully, a little bit more of a fight on heading into next weekend in Mexico, and as well Brazil the weekend after. It's the first part of the triple header comes to an end here.
You can tell that, Alice, because of the F1 paddock. There are freight cases, boxes, tyres stacked up. Everywhere you look, bits of kit being packed away because, of course, as you say, we head straight to Mexico. There is absolutely no let-up, but I think, as you say, we've had a bit of an amuse-bouche, if you will, of what's to come for the 2nd and 3rd part of this triple header, haven't we?
An amuse-bouche, I like it, yeah. Hey, if it gets better from here, if this was the amuse-bouche and we've got more courses to be served up in the next Grand Prix, I'm looking forward to when we get to Brazil, which is another sprint weekend. And it's always one that serves up a thriller. So hopefully with 4 Grand Prix left in this year, we get more races like this, see Verstappen challenged and see the best of him as well when he's under a bit of pressure.
Maybe even by Abu Dhabi we'll be serving petit fours, Jolien. We're going really niche and really special.
Petit Falloos?
No, petit fours.
Is that a yoghurt? Is that a yoghurt?
Yeah.
No.
They're nice, they are. I'd happily have one of those.
No, nice little things you have with a coffee or two. I tend to have quite a lot of them myself. But yes, the paddock is a hive of activity. Everyone keen to pack down and get going very quickly. And actually. I'm just watching Kevin Magnussen walking through the paddock with his 2 little children, his daughter skipping alongside him. He's looking a little bit tired. And you did say that, Julian, didn't you, that the drivers look like they've really had to work for it this afternoon. Not just Max Verstappen under a bit more pressure than normal, but still a very physical race for the drivers.
Well, it's another hot day. It's been really baking all weekend long in Texas, and 31 degrees air temperature, similar temperature actually to Qatar last time out, but almost half the humidity, and that's what's made this more bearable for everyone. And hey, this is the one that's nice to see. A fast track, no safety car interventions, a good Grand Prix, drivers being able to push on it pretty much the whole way through and getting out, feeling the heat, but not on the edge of exhaustion. So this is probably a good level of driver workout, and this is why they do the training.
Certainly is. They all said, didn't they, on Thursday, that Qatar had been a bit of a training camp for the triple header, because we always ask how they've prepared for it. But I think Qatar was almost the most intense training camp you could have going into a triple header. So driver of the day and one to watch out for next weekend in Mexico then, please, Alice.
Oh, you've asked me a tough question. I'm going to say Lewis for driver of the day. You know, he had the setback and had to claw his way back through, find some pace, got close at the end there. Another good job by Lando Norris. And someone to watch out for, well, of course, Max. He's going to be one to watch out for.
What about you, Jolien?
Hamilton driver of the day for pushing Verstappen all the way in the Mercedes. And yeah, Verstappen is a one to watch every single time, but I think Mercedes and McLaren, maybe even Ferrari, having a better run on a circuit that's less hard on the tyres next time out.
Well, plenty to look forward to as we move to Mexico and then to Brazil to complete the triple header. My thanks to Andrew Benson, Alice Powell and Jolien Palmer up in the commentary box. Connor Phillips is up next, but first let's check in with the latest BBC News with Stuart Clarkson. It's a goodbye from Circuit of the Americas.